What's up, people? Welcome to a brand new episode of Wrestle Update. As always, I'm your host, Dylan Fox, joined by my good friend, Nello De Angelis. And we have a lot to talk about today. First of all, want to address a slight, not a tremendous elephant, but a slight elephant in the room. I want to apologize for not having a show done for the Royal Rumble, like we said, but a lot happened. To be honest, in our lives, for both of us. Nello, he had stuff going on, which he is free to expand upon more if he would like. For me, I was in the middle of some really crazy stuff in terms of moving, like lawsuit issues, no joke. If you listen to my other show, The Eastern Lariat, on our Patreon, I released the most depressing podcast ever recorded in human existence, I think, and explained everything in greater detail. But just know, it was with good reason we weren't here. It was not nonsensical, I promise. But we are back now. We're going 2 shows. We got both major companies covered today. Lots of stuff to talk about. But Nello, I'm really happy to be back doing this show here. I missed talking to you, first of all. My birthday came and went. A lot was going on. I'm back in a new place now. How are you, my friend?
Doing well. So happy that you were doing better and in a much better situation. That has me very hyped. Yeah, big weight off my shoulders personally. Just a lot going on at work lately and moved into a big new chapter. So I'm excited about that. Royal Rumble, sum up my thoughts real quick. Not for me. And
it wasn't the greatest.
No. If anything, we did them a favor by not covering it. You didn't need any more coverage on that show. 4 hours of 4 matches. It was really the all-star event of the WWE in terms of the way that they imagine halfway through the men's Rumble. They're like, all right, guys, we just need to shout out Pat McAfee for his 3 years of commentary here. Like, Pat, you just mean so much to us, and everyone in the ring is just stopped. But like the records are still going. They're like, oh my God, Rey Mysterio's been in there for 45 minutes. I don't know. I'm mostly wanting to talk about the All-Star game, Dylan. All-Star weekend.
Yes, that was a thing in and of itself. First of all, yes, I concur with Nello's thoughts. The Rumble, I'll talk about it a little bit later on, but I actually did not hate Jey Uso winning just because it was totally random. It was like surprising, and usually they don't do stuff that's kind of like totally crazy and nonsensical. So I like that part of it. Him actually getting a main event spot, I don't necessarily love, like most of you don't, based on the reaction online, I'm sure, the reaction on Cage Match. But the All-Star weekend, the thing about that is, this All-Star weekend, if you're not familiar, the NBA started a new system for the All-Star game this year. First time ever, a play-in tournament. You had the All-Star weekend festivities on Saturday. Did you watch all of them, like the skills contest and all of that?
So, all I watched from the skills contest was Chris Paul and Wemby. Was absolutely hilarious. So, for those who don't know, the skills contest is you basically have to, showcase and illustrate some passing techniques, quick shots, running up and down the court, a layup, whatever. And, the shots that you shoot don't count whether you make them or not. So when Wemby and CP3 went for it, they just fucking grabbed the balls and threw them as quickly as they could with absolutely no intention to even shoot them. Yes. And then they were disqualified by the NBA reps. And what was hilarious was like the courtside reporter, I can't remember her name, so my apologies.
Ali LaForce.
There you go. And she was like, I'm going to try to figure out what's going on. And the NBA rep's like, you're not doing that. No. And it was just the most awkward, like, it was the most Chris Paul thing ever. It was just wonderful.
Yes, that was hilarious. They did that. That was the main thing. I mean, the skills contest is always like the redheaded stepchild of the All-Star weekend. They started that like 20 years ago. I remember when it first started because That they made it a game mode in NBA The Life 06, which is the all-time greatest basketball game ever. When it's the first ever story mode in basketball and way, way better than any 2K career modes ever. But they put that in there, and it was a new thing then. But it's really just, okay, short guys can't dunk, and if you're a short guy who can't shoot threes, this is for you, pretty much. But now they've changed it to where big guys can do it too. But you had the 3-point shootout. Mama was so pissed because she wanted her favorite player, Luke Kennard of the Memphis Grizzlies, to be in it, and he was not this year. So she boycotted the All-Star whole weekend. So it was just me and Ken watching. And you know, it was good. Buddy Hield had a crazy great first round, and then he blew it the second round at the end. Like that's pretty much it. You know, I was never a big fan of his anyway. Even though it would have been cool for a hometown guy to win, I suppose. But it's the Warriors, so I kind of don't like them. Especially a certain commentator on this show. Then the dunk contest. Kevin Hart? Well, if he might as well play for the Warriors the way that things went this week for the game. Matt McClung, dunking over the car, that was good. Although his foot did clip the car, if you notice on the come down, so he didn't completely clear it. I do want to take points away from that, in my opinion. The 2-ball dunk off the ladder or whatever was like the best one in my opinion, because that was a clean dunk and nobody else did anything of note. At the end, Mac
McClung just blew my mind. Like the craziest one was definitely the final for me, where one of the commentators was like, "No, you got to wait," because he caught it on the first one and I did not catch it until the replay. Yeah. And I was like, "This is so pro wrestling. This is insane." That's what I was most shocked by, Dylan, was the presentation and how, and like I'm not someone who typically watches the All-Star Weekend, but really? And like especially though on game night when the teams came out and they introduced everyone with Enter Sandman playing, they do the wrestling entrances, right? Yeah. The announcer, like, is it always this pro wrestling coded?
Absolutely. Like every year at the All-Star game, it's like this. Kevin Hart, everyone's complaining about him. He's been at the All-Star game like 20 years straight now. Like, he's here every year. I remember years ago, he came out as a mailman. Like, somebody with the dunk contest. I think it was the Jazz. Somebody from the Jazz was in the dunk contest. He was like, Karl Malone. I'm the mailman delivering the mail. Ha, ha, ha. Type of deal. But yeah, he's always there. They always do this pro wrestling stuff. They never did a concert in the middle of the game. They never did that before. I will say that I can remember, but they did it here, which was kind of dope, to be honest with you. I liked the concert. I don't know about you.
I mean, when I heard, I would think so. I was very ill during all of that weekend.
That's another reason why it took us a few days to record this.
What was it? Norovirus, I believe, is what I got, or whatever, that horrible stomach thing.
I hope you're okay, man.
Thank you. Much better. But yeah, so it's pretty much like a fever dream. So when I heard blow the whistle, I literally started whistling.
Too Short, man. That's a legend.
And I mean, I thought everyone but the DJ was good. The DJ, I just wanted to fight.
He was annoying.
He's the Kevin Hart of the night. But dude, the Mr. Beast basket, or the competition with the 3-pointer was nuts. Felt like the Hunger Games. Did you see Kyrie stole money from the cash box that the kid was in? He grabbed $7, and then when he was walking away laughing and high-fiving James Harden, Kevin Durant grabbed it out of his hand and threw it back in the box.
I love that. That's your guy, KD. He refused to be traded to the Warriors.
When they came back from that final break and they had 10 minutes of game left to play, and then they just Curry hits the half-point shot. Kyrie goes off the glass to himself. That was so much fun. I was having such a blast. What was it? Trey hit Kyrie off the back and then nutmeg Steph. It was so much fun. So much fun. And I wish we could have gotten 3 hours of that instead of whatever else.
Yeah, the tournament. I mean, they said they were trying to make it more competitive, but it really kind of wasn't. Like they still didn't take it that serious. And I know there was a lot of criticism of the tournament format, not to let all the stars play. But I mean, it was fine. Like you said, I kind of like the end of it when they just like, okay, this is a Harlem Globetrotters game right now, and that was good. But yeah, the rest of it was pretty boring. There's nothing on the line, no stakes to it. And I think that's why they wanted to change it so much. It's just like the dunk contest. Over the years, they tried to change the dunk contest in so many ways. I remember one year they brought out a wheel where they spun the wheel and each thing had a category, and the problem with that one was it kept falling on the same thing, which was like Dr. J's classic dunks. And they would show a Dr. J dunk, and then the dunker would have to do it. But then it would be like Steve Francis is here, and he has to do the free throw line dunk, and it's like he can't even palm the ball with one hand, so he can't do the Statue of Liberty. They tried to do one where it was like a teams game, which totally sucked. Like that was one of the worst ones, where it was like 3 dunkers and you get 2 minutes to do as many dunks as you want. That sucked. This format's good. I wish they would have turned back to the 1 out of 10 rating, not the 1 out of 50 or 40 to 50 range. It sucked. That part was dumb. But the game, I love the spectacle. I was for it. I loved they honored inside the NBA guys there because they meant a lot to the game, and they're going to be off of TNT. Due to Warner Brothers malpractice, and we'll talk more about some questionable promoting on their part we're about to get into. But losing inside the NBA was definitely a huge screw up. So I'm glad that they got honored. I don't hate Kevin Hart. I wish that there was less of him for sure. But still, it would have hit harder if Cat Williams was out there instead of him, in my opinion.
Dude, that would have been so funny. It was so annoying when he's like, if another 7-foot man shoots a 3, like Shy looked fucking annoyed. Everyone looked annoyed.
Yeah, he was like, wrap it up. They cut to him. He's like, come on, hurry this up, man.
Dude, yeah.
See, I'm telling you, I'm saying that because Cat is coming to Memphis, tomorrow. I think his new show is. They play commercials for his show in every Grizzlies game, too, because he's going to be at the arena, FedEx Forum. So I was just thinking, like, if he were there, this would have been a lot better overall, because he was really annoying, being like the heel commentator pretty much for the show. Even Charles Barkley was like, dude, shut up on there. So yeah, that was good. Draymond Green was pissed. He said it was a 0 out of 10 good contest. And then Oscar Robertson clapped back at him, said he's only known for passing the ball to Curry. That's why the game's boring now. So lots of drama. What do you think about the Heat trading Jimmy? It finally happened.
It finally happened. I'm a Heat guy and I'm a Jimmy Butler guy. I'm not one of those people that's going to turn on him just because he fucked us over. It's a business, man. It's a business. It's like Seth. It's like Seth hitting us with the chair in the back and the whole team is Roman, Tyler won the 3-point contest. That was awesome.
That was good.
That was great. I get a little bit as a Heat fan, a little bit as a Jimmy fan. I did watch the Warriors game the other night and just watched him play with them. It's interesting. I mean, he's playing the complete opposite game that Steph is. So it's like, a little bit more filled out in that sense. But you're probably going to get to put Defensive Player of the Year now, on your team.
Yeah,
because
he was like
out.
the one. Yeah, he was like the one guy who actually tried in the All-Star game to play defense. He had like 3 or 4 blocks or something. I love the Grizzlies. The team has kept us afloat pretty much. The city and me personally and the family and everyone. We all love the Grizzlies here in Memphis. I can't wait to see Triple J get another Defensive Player of the Year because he deserves it. Wemby going down definitely helps that cause. I feel bad for Wemby, who I respect and love a lot as a player. Don't get me wrong. I would never root for an injury to anybody, even an asshole like Draymond. But I still don't want people to get hurt. But him especially, I really love his game. I think they have a great young team in San Antonio. But I just hope for the best with Ja. I mean, it came out that he got robbed, I think that's really, if you watch the last couple of Grizz games, he really hasn't looked like himself. I think there's a lot on his mind. It's kind of given the team a bad vibe the last few games. But I mean, we got Triple J. Edie and Wells, they did make the All-Star game as the Rising Star representative. They're both very good, talented rookies. Bane got his number retired at his college last week, so we've got a great team. We're still number 2 in the West, but it's going to be a dogfight. Anybody can win. In that trade, the Heat got Andrew Wiggins, right?
Yeah. Did you see that clip where the fan is breaking the trade news to Yaquez, Hero, and Kevin Love? And Kevin Love's like, "Do we get any draft capital?" to the fan. It's just like,
I love it, God. Kevin Love. But you did get the main goal is that you got Kyle Anderson, who was a wonderful member of the Grizzlies when he played here. I was a huge fan of his game. I mean, he's not a high scorer, but he's like he does everything else. Like he's like the Mr. 5x5. You know, like he'll give you at least 5 in every category: steals, blocks. Well, maybe not 5 in steals and blocks, but that's the kind of thing. He'll give you a little bit of everything. Play hard on defense, a good length, and can hit a 3 here and there. Love Kyle Anderson. I miss him in Memphis. But there was wasn't there 5 teams involved in that trade too? And suddenly somehow Dennis Schroeder got moved on top of it, as he does in every single trade in the NBA.
Was it from the Kings or
was it Utah? Maybe.
I don't know. But yeah, there was a lot of teams like the Hornets, I think, or was that the Luka deal? That was the Luka one.
Oh yeah, that was another deal, the Luka trade, which was ridiculous. That was a horrible trade. It's
been real pro wrestling in the NBA lately. Let's say that.
Yeah, the Heat trade was way better than what the Mavs got for Luka. This was way more fair, and because Butler. Did you see the report where Pat Riley cried to Butler, and they were talking about because he was like, "I know you lost your dad lately." And he's Goto or something, and he broke down in tears. And when he left, Butler told his boys Riley's insane. He looked unhinged in there. I gotta get out of here. And Riley was trying to have it be a moment between them, like a bro moment. And Butler was like, "No, this is nuts. Why is he crying? I gotta get out of here." You wouldn't have seen that from Pat in the 90s. Is all I'm saying. But he's still there. We'll see what happens with our respective teams. I think it's actually kind of good for the Heat to get rid of him, in all honesty, just because nothing against him as a player, but it's just he was kind of a huge distraction the last month or so. So that's kind of like a weight off your shoulders. It's done. K-Love did not get the draft capital he wanted. He only got 1 protected pick, but he did get a bunch of pretty good players, to be honest. At least you didn't get Ben Simmons, or it would have been one of the worst trades ever. But, yeah, we'll see what happens. But the funny thing is, you were too sick to watch this live. But after the dunk contest happened, it moved. Well, I'll ask you first. What do you want to talk about first, Vengeance Day or Grand Slam?
Yeah, let's just do Vengeance Day first. Or I don't know.
Okay, cool.
What's the main event? What's the biggest show?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's a problem with Grand Slam. Again, I guess we'll do Grand Slam first, not because it's the main event, but because it kind of flows directly to what we were just talking about with the NBA.
Cool.
They really screwed up the marketing for this show. Nobody knew when it was going to take place. It took them forever just to announce that it would take place after the All-Star Saturday. Nobody even knew that until a few days out. And obviously, at first, I think they had a lot higher expectations. Well, I know they did because they ran the arena show or whatever, or the stadium show at first. They had to downsize it. And unfortunately, I didn't mind the crowd at all. The crowd was great. Actually, they were super hot. It may have been a smaller building, but the crowd was very hot for it. It unfortunately spawned perhaps the dumbest discourse in wrestling history, and that's saying a lot, about the small ring that they had. This ring bothered so many people, and I don't understand why.
I didn't notice. I wouldn't have noticed unless people made such a stink.
I mean, I definitely noticed, but it's also not like. I mean, when I wrestled, it was in rings like that. not like the major TV rings, and it was definitely smaller. I'm not saying it wasn't, but it's like, what did you expect? They're going to use a ring there, and they're not going to fly their own ring out. Like what? Like, you know what? Like, why did people expect anything different other than using a ring that's there? I mean, it was a puzzling complaint, and it really didn't have much of an effect other than a slight visual difference. Like you said, it wasn't that crazy. You know, I remember watching some of those old Ring of Honor shows. That ring they used to use was crazy small. IWA Mid South and all of that. That was nuts. But the Grand Slam, again, I wish the promotion of it was a lot better, because I think that they had a good show on paper that actually meant a lot to the fans. You know, at the end of the day, you know, it had a 10,000 people capacity arena in Brisbane Entertainment Center. Tons of people I love in Australia, so happy they get the chance to have this show there. Although the people I talked to in Australia basically said they don't even know how to watch AEW like normally.
Yeah, that was like the main consensus, is like, this isn't a place where like AEW's just like universally telecast. Like, it's not some hotbed of broadcasting for it.
No, so it's unfortunate, because I mean, right now the last few weeks of Dynamites have been very, very well received. I would say they've been pretty good shows overall. They've really taken a step up lately. But this show, if it were me, another unfortunate thing about it airing when it did is that after the dunk contest ended, they basically did another 10 minutes just them sitting around talking about stuff that had happened on All-Star Saturday Night. It's not like McClung got the trophy, made a speech, and they cut right to Grand Slam. It was like they had this weird 10 minutes of dead time in between for whatever reason. The first thing I would have done is I would have had this air live on Max. I get that you you couldn't do it on TNT because of the time difference. You know, it would air at like 5 a.m. or something if they did that. But I would have aired it live on Max and then showed a replay after the game and make it a Max special. But they chose not to do that. I guess they wanted to edit whatever off of there. But if I would have changed it, and if I could have done it my way, I would have had them cut it. The first thing you see heading off of All-Star Saturdays is Ospreay's entrance in the ring directly. Like, I want the first thing we see is him walking into the ring and the crowd chanting Ospreay, Ospreay. You try to catch make it seem like this huge party, because I think that's what. Remember when we did the Netflix Raw debut?
Yep.
We talked about it there. That show was no great shakes. I think we both agree in terms of content, but it felt like a party atmosphere that just felt really huge and cool, like a great place to be. And I think if you had Ospreay's entrance, his is the one of everybody's that is the best, like the most like that, where it's everybody's cheering very loud. It seems raucous and crazy. They're like, who's this guy? You know, because the numbers show it. The ratings for this show were very good, by the way. Even despite the late start time, for me, it started after 10 p.m. It was past midnight before it ended. I think it was 1:45 by the time it ended in terms of Central Time in America. So the ratings did a great number. It was over 500,000, much more than usual in Collision. And obviously the lead-in played a big role in that. Of course, we all know that. But still, the number is very good. I would have tried to have as many people stick around. And they definitely had more than usual stick around from there. But that would be my one complaint of the start. Instead of the first thing, I mean, it's cool that Takeshita came out first, but his entrance was a heel entrance. You know, I would have had Ospreay be the first entrance. There's a minor criticism of the opening. But the match itself, this received a 5-star rating from Dave Meltzer here. This match here, 8.67 on Cage Match. Oh, by the way, this is something I totally skipped over earlier, and I want to bring it back. I really want to give a huge shout out, because we have put these shows on here on Cage Match for a while now, and the Eastern Lariat too. But we don't, it's possible everybody out there, if you're listening, you can comment on the shows too on Cage Match directly. And I really want to shout out to Trombek Kushinika, a wonderful reviewer that we had. on our show at the start of the year, they left a review saying they basically liked the show a lot. They gave good thing, and their constructive criticism was to shout out more stuff on the database itself, which we actually did for the GCW review that came afterwards, and he very much liked that show, where we were like always comparing it to the first one. And we took your advice without even knowing it, Trombeck. But now I do know it, and we will do that more going forward. I just want to shout you out. Thank you so much for the nice comments as well, overall. And also for the Eastern Lariat, too. You sent a nice review on that show, too. Anybody listening is welcome to leave nice comments for our show, by the way. So big shout out to Trombeck. We get good stuff from people like Eternal E Pure. Big Ed gives nice comments, so we've got a nice little crew forming up on the Wrestle Update universe that we have in place here. Awesome. But anyway, yeah. Like I said, we really appreciate you guys, so thank you so much for listening. Let us know what you think of the show and the stuff we talk about too. I don't know if we drove everybody away with the NBA talk at the start, but if not, Omega and Ospreay versus Takeshita Fletcher, 8.67, 5 stars from Dave. What did you think of this match?
So, and this is like something I've noticed with these specific types of matches, which is to say like an AEW tag match with superstars, right? Yeah. I go in knowing it's going to be so fucking good, so that sometimes a lot of the stuff that they do doesn't quite touch me in a meaningful way. It's almost like par for the course. And then what I'm waiting for is for them to sort of break through that ceiling and show me something even more. And I thought that this was a great match, but I didn't think that this was up there with like a 5. I would go 4.25 on this. I thought it was a really great opening match. I thought everyone was in top form, but it also felt like an opening TV show match. It didn't feel like there was a lot of stakes. Like, yes, we did come out of this match with a cage match and a title match, but the stakes in this match did not feel like there wasn't necessarily anything on the line, even with all of the story going into it and all of the history. The stakes just didn't feel important. It just felt like this was a match we're going to do because we're having this show and we got to put something big on it. And a lot of people might disagree with me on that.
Well, I don't think there's any way they can disagree with there weren't any stakes to this match because, I think, well, I mean, in hindsight, they kind of made it that way to build up, although they also went against it. This is another thing you talk about on the Dynamite this week. I don't understand why Takeshita has to earn the right to defend his own title against Omega. I feel like Omega should be fighting for Takeshita's belt, not, okay, Takeshita must go through this tournament to fight Omega. Like that. I'm not a big fan of that overall, and I like that they're making Omega a big deal, and the finish obviously was going to lead to that. I do think there was some moments, and again, I'm not hating on Omega at all here. I thought he was overall very strong in this match. There were some moments of sloppiness, though. I think most pronounced in an attempt at a Poison Rana, which did not go right. It wasn't any big deal or anything, but it was a little bit sloppier than you would expect for somebody of his caliber overall. They could tell a story with that if they would like in the future as well, after the amazing segment building up to this match where they did the moonsaults off of the barriers and stuff. I think that was in Knoxville. But overall, the match was awesome. Tons of great work that you would really expect from these guys. I really have to agree with you and the inmates more than Dave. I think this was around a 4.25. 8.67 rating is good. It's like that 8 out of 10 range for me, maybe 9 on the right day. So I think getting in between that 8 to 9 range feels right to me about this. I thought Ospreay was really great in this match. Like whenever him and Takeshita were in, and people who have known me over the years knows that it took me a little while to warm up to Ospreay. I know his rep has been best in the world level for like a decade at this point. But whether he was in the junior division in New Japan the champion or anything like that. I think that he really took a while to grow into the kind of worker he is today, but he just really connects with the fan base here, and I think he does a lot of great work. He's a great workhorse type of guy for the company. Takeshita, I think, is one of the best overall talents, and Fletcher, I love that he's not just a really good wrestler, but he's somebody who he's not afraid to be a stooge. He like a true heel, because Takeshita, he's kind of vicious and obviously a fantastic wrestler, but there's really not a lot to actually hate about him. He's like a badass type of heel, whereas Fletcher is like a smarmy heel you want to see get beat up, and I think he plays that really well, and he did all throughout the tournament as well, the Continental Classic. So this was a good match. I like there was nothing wrong with it at all. It was a great match. It was more than good. It was a great match. I do think it's a little overrated by Meltzer standards, but I think most people, they have it about right. I think we all kind of say this is great, and it set up something for the future, which is something I think was needed on this show. A lot of this show, I think this is a similar complaint I had about the first show on Max, and even Raw on Netflix to a lesser extent, but I think not enough was done to promote stuff going forward. A lot of these matches were, feud enders that we're about to talk about, but I think that having more set up for the future was important. Up next was a TBS title match. Mercedes Moné defending against the home country hero, Harley Cameron, who before this had an absolutely fantastic segment where at first they had the stuff with the puppet was very funny, but transitioning that into a comedic rap about Mercedes and then turning that into a very serious promo about getting the belt, I thought that was legit one of the best promo segments all year in AEW that anybody's done. Harley killed that whole segment between the rap from her promo, the build up with the puppet. Everything about it was perfect. And a lot of people were calling for her to win the title here, which is insane considering she literally just won her first ever match in AEW in the build up to this. But she was so good, I could totally buy it. Like that, why you would want to see that. And they had the crowd going hot for this match as well. They built up to the big spot of Harley grabbing the puppet and fighting Mercedes with it, which led, of course, to Mercedes kicking the puppet out of the ring. And recently in an interview, she said that was a tribute to someone who she was a big fan of all along, which was DDT's Yoshihiko on there. She did say that for real. So good stuff there, although the puppet couldn't do much more than just be an unofficial weapon for Harley. Good back and forth stuff here. They went to the floor a couple of times. The crowd really popped for the puppet stuff. They chanted "Feel the Wrath" for her. Mercedes did her Meteora-based offense and things like that. They built up to Harley's big move, which was a Swanton Bomb. That missed, and that led right into the Money Maker here to win the match. Harley was good enough for her level. She this was not any kind of 5-star match at all, but the crowd was hot, and for a comedic character title defense, I thought this filled about what you would have expected from it, just considering where Harley is wrestling wise, which my expectations were not that high. What did you think?
Yeah. It seems like Harley Cameron went to the pro wrestling school of Tony Storm in terms of great character work and ability to genre switch in promos. So agreed on all that. It was pretty wild. Like I saw Dave say something like this was Ric Flair's Sting and Mercedes had to be the Ric Flair to Harley's Sting. Like she had to make her in one night. And I was like, this is so much stakes for like this homecoming match. But this was great. I thought it was another good title defense in Mercedes' run. She brought Harley to definitely her best match yet. I think you said it all very well. Like the puppet stuff didn't overshadow. Like that was my one fear, is kind of just like this puppet thing. Like I don't know why, but it reminded me so much of like South Park. and like this one episode where Cartman draws Jennifer Lopez on his hand and like dates Ben Affleck.
I remember this well.
Yeah, like that's for some reason that's what I kept thinking of, and it would always just I had a very different relationship with this puppet because it just always made me feel fucking weird. But yeah, like this was good. This was to me a solid 3.5. I would agree with Dave on it. You know, and I think that like there are different kinds of 3.5, right? Like there's a 3.5 G1 match, right? Where you're like, this was a good G1 match, but like a 3.5 Harley Cameron match is like, that's like when you're watching the recent DDT Sauna show, right? And that Sakura Hirota match where she dresses up as Takeshita. Like that's an amazing 3.5 star match, just like this one, where it's like 3.5 stars that will actually stick with you and you'll remember this match, as opposed to like a match with, you know, really great wrestlers who just had a 3.5 star bout.
The inmates gave it a little lower, 6.37, which I mean, I think that's about fair. You know, 2.5 to 3 stars for me. I didn't think it was any kind of great match, but I thought it was good enough for what it accomplished everything it needed to. So you can't really go below 3 on that, or a 6 out of 10 for me in the cage match zone, in my opinion. And you know, 7, 3.5, I think that's fair as well. The puppet kind of looked like they used to have an old show on Comedy Central when I was like a baby. But it's called Crank Yankers, and that's that's what this puppet kind of reminded me of. Like actually, so I went a little opposite route, but I do love the South Park interactions that we have here. That Jennifer Lopez puppet where he would make the ridiculous voice with it. The hand puppet, I do remember that very well. And I glad I never thought of that for this puppet, I would say.
You remember Abdullah Kobayashi, Kento Miyahara? We talked about this like when it first happened, because I love that match. And this is like a match I would compare that to in terms of like, yes, the in-ring work is maybe not that to a 3.5 stars, but like this is such a character match, right? And I thought that the character stuff worked. It's such a great level.
And Harley's only going to grow and get better from this as well. Mercedes on Dynamite, they're building up to her match at Revolution against Momo Watanabe, who had won the tournament thing they did at the Dynasty show, Wrestle Dynasty, and she picked. They had been doing a thing where Momo was like scouting everybody, like she was at front row for Athena's match in Ring of Honor. They showed her in the crowd here too. They had a brief like little struggle with her and Mercedes after the match, but Momo and Mercedes, what do you think of that direction?
It's going to be an incredible match. Hasn't she already defended? Oh, she defended the Strong title, I think, against her. Or something.
Mercedes
and she
Momo?
Defended the Strong title against Momo. Capital Collision, August 30th, 2024.
Yeah, that's true. That was right after the 5-star Grand Prix for Stardom. Momo's like, she's very up and down these days. You know, it just depends on her. Like, which Momo are we going to get? Because before her heel turn, she was like one of the absolute best in the company. Ever since she turned heel, she never really grasped how to do that and work good. But she's gotten a lot better as time has gone along, where she's tolerable. But that first match was not that great. Momo and Mercedes, like the Hazuki match, stomped that match, like in terms of quality. But instead, they're giving Momo the pay-per-view spot here. I honestly would have rather it had. I think Stardom has an excellent roster, and there's a lot of people I would have loved to have seen got a shot at Mercedes. But this is the one that can lose, I think, to Mercedes, and they won't mind it, especially with the Cinderella tournament coming at the same time period. So the match could be great. I think if Momo taps into her old self a little bit more, and this is really her opportunity, because she's really not any kind of household name, like at all, even compared to a Mina Shirakawa level player. So this is going to be everything they can do, and she's not somebody who's going to have that kind of build up to her. I just don't see them putting that much effort into her. And maybe I'll be wrong, and they will put a lot into her. But based on what we saw at Dynamite, I really think it's going to be a minimal build to this. Maybe the good thing is that on Dynamite, Mercedes basically said that if you want a shot, you'll have to say it to my face. So. And that basically, like, you shouldn't even get a title shot because you've never done anything in AEW. So what I would like to see is a challenge series for Momo against people from AEW on Dynamite every week. Like spotlight matches with Momo against the roster. You know, you have talent that you could do something with. Start off with like an easy squash match where she looks impressive. Build to major players and have her get a win over a really established talent to set up her versus Mercedes is how I would handle that.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that Momo needs to be introduced in a way that isn't just ringside. Like, to me, the fact that they're flying her literally around the world for this shows, and let her pin Athena shows that they have some sort of like investment or like fascination or interest in Momo, or else they wouldn't be rolling out the carpet for her in this way.
Good point.
So, you know, I hope that we definitely get some presence on television. Outside of just like these, you know, I don't know. I'm very interested to see what they do with this because we still have, you know, 2 weeks leading up to. Yeah. So like who are a couple people you would like to see Momo face? Maybe a Purrazzo.
And that's the problem with how this is too, is that there's not that much time to really do anything drastic with this. But if you look at the roster, like I said, they have a lot of different people. Purrazzo's a great shout out, to be honest with you. I think that she's somebody that could have a really good match, kind of underutilized in her own way as well. You could look at, and like you said, beating Athena. Nobody else has gotten a pin over her, like except for Momo in like the last year or whatever on there. So that really proves your point pretty much. That, you know, they care enough about her to give her this stuff overall, so that's good. I would say, I feel like maybe, you know, they'll trot out Emi Sakura for this to have her have a win over there for sure. But I would rather it be somebody of note, like, you know, like, and I'm not saying it has to be her specifically, but like a Jamie Hayter level person, kind of lost in the shuffle right now. It would suck for her to lose because we love Jamie, don't get me wrong, but she's not really doing anything. So if it were me, I would build Momo up with a win over her and have a great match on Dynamite for it.
I'm into it.
But it's an interesting match, and I think it's a very cool defense for Mercedes at Revolution. Up next, they cut to Kenny Omega and Ospreay, and basically Omega set up his match versus Takeshita. They announced the tournament afterwards for Takeshita to have to win his way to defend his own title against Omega, which will be settled against Orange Cassidy next week. OC back was fine. I've always liked Where Is My Mind better than Jane as his theme, but it was fine. Like, him and Roddy was a good match. It wasn't anything super special, and I'm sure OC and Takeshita will be another very good TV match, as he's known for. And Ospreay said that he wants Fletcher in the steel cage at Revolution. So what do you think? Omega, Takeshita, and Ospreay, Fletcher in a cage to settle their feud.
I think Omega needs a title, and they're not going to give him the world title. So, you know, they should. They should. He's better
than who they've got going for the title. We're about to talk about.
It's time to put a title on Omega and put him in a prominent position. Big love to Takeshita. You know, he beat Ospreay and Ricochet, whatever. But again, this is one of those things where they say they have all these plans to super push this guy, and I feel like they didn't necessarily do anything with his international run. Like, I would say the stuff that his international run is known for are more so things that have happened outside of AEW, like the Maple Leaf Pro shows, which is really unfortunate. But like, as much as I love
or the
Takeshita,
match with Ishii at Dynasty.
Yeah, exactly. It's time for Omega. It's Omega time. Fletcher Ospreay, they're technically 1-1 because they're not counting that other one.
Yeah, they don't count the first one. Yeah.
Right. So that's, it's cool, man. Cage match should be definitive. I think that Omega and Ospreay both need to go over though. So it's time for the Don Callis family to take some L's and really, because AEW needs to reestablish like its baby faces, its main event baby faces. I think that after Ospreay defeats Fletcher, God praying that Cope does not win the title, that Ospreay should just go Moxley at the next fucking show.
Yes, I agree with you about Omega and Takeshita. I also agree with you that Takeshita's push was not that substantial on AEW TV. To me, Fletcher feels like a much more important person to them over the last few months than Takeshita, which is fine. I mean, again, I think Fletcher's done an excellent job with what he's been given for the most part. But I wouldn't describe to me, Takeshita is not someone I would say he's a main event player in AEW, in my opinion. Despite this title run, and he's a fan. Like I said, to me, if it were Dylan's running AEW, he would be a constant presence in the world title picture, because I think he's one of the best like wrestlers on the roster. He's not just one of the best. He's like, if he's not number one, he's not number two. No, if he's not number one, he's not number three. Like he's way up there in terms of in-ring performer. His match versus Bolton Oleg in New Japan was so damn great. That was a match of the year level match to me, as even like that might have been even better than the Ishii match that he had. Yeah, I love that match. It's a shame because the match of the year was in the main event of that same show, and it's gonna really overshadow that match forever, pretty much, because the Goto title win meant so much to so many people.
God, Goto champion,
myself included.
Tyler Hero, Mac McClung, Karuki Goto. It's just been a great week for champions.
That's right. You just listed all of the champions everyone would always, a lot of people have always said that Goto and Mac McClung are very similar. I would say, people have always said Hero is the Goto of the NBA as well.
Yeah, the G League stands for the Goto League, baby.
Yeah. The G and G League is Goto League. Fletcher, I totally agree with you 100% about the babyface side. Look at who they've got going in this title scene. It's putrid on the babyface side. Like they have to improve their babyfaces on this roster. They've given way too little to them. And these two men in particular, especially Ospreay, has not been hailed as much as he should have. And I think this is the start of that, of these guys being main event level guys. I suspect the cage match will have a ton of interference despite it being a cage match. And maybe that's something we'll see where Davis turns on the family again. That angle they did when Davis came out and they were like, he signed away his right to attorney to Kyle Fletcher. And it was like, dude, that was a knee injury. Like, what are you talking about? That was one of the dumbest explanations, I think, of a storyline that I can remember. To explain away, and he didn't even wrestle like a babyface, but they've gone full force with him being like a captive member of the family here. So maybe Davis turns on Fletcher in the cage. That allows Ospreay to win. And Omega should just beat Takeshita clean. I mean, like I said, I love Takeshita, but like you said, Omega needs to be a vocal point. Let me ask you this, Nello, because I think this is a very important point that we need to talk about. And this is definitely something, if you're listening to this, I want some opinions weighed in on this next question I'm about to pose. Do you prefer Omega's new theme or Battle Cry as his entrance theme music?
New theme.
I think that Battle Cry is a much more exciting theme. But on the other hand, this new theme has Uemura doing the voiceover, and the guy who sings it sings the Metal Gear Rising, Metal Gear Ray theme song. So I automatically will be biased towards it. But I think I like how they kind of do it where he uses Battle Cry as his TV theme song, but then the big match theme is this new one. That's how I would do it too, because I think people get more amped up for Battle Cry, because this new one is like a very slow, methodical, epic, theme song to me.
Yeah. No, I think having the division would be cool. Like, no, give it, like, anytime you can do something that gives like a match a big fight feel is special. So that sounds cool.
Another thing that I've noticed on the AEW Music YouTube page, they did like an acoustic EP of certain songs. And if Statlander ever gets a big match again, they need to introduce the opening of her acoustic song into her regular theme song as an epic intro. Because I'm a big fan of that too. That in Japanese wrestling, that's a big thing too, where you'll have like the big match theme will be your regular theme, but the first 30 seconds will be a piano intro or something like that to make it sound that much more epic. They go on and on about the Cope and Jay White versus Death Riders feud. It's been the worst crap imaginable, pretty much. And it all leads to this brawl match. This finish was mind-boggling. First of all, the match was fine. I really don't have any strong opinions on it. Fine brawl. You got to have Cope have everybody singing his song. Like, that's cool. Why did he lose though? Like, you're building him up as the title challenger, and if you notice on Dynamite, they kind of hid that he lost. They didn't actually talk about the finish of this match at all on there. So I don't know what happened, but I was just kind of like flabbergasted at this finish. It just seems like something where they realized immediately they screwed up and they're trying to rectify it now. And I heard Meltzer talking about this. He was baffled, and he was like, I could never explain this finish. It was insane to me. What were they thinking?
I mean, everyone's talked about it, but the obvious notion of 50-50 booking, meaning that Cope's going to win the title now, right? But
yeah, that's my fear.
I think you can tell a pretty simple story of just, it's the people interfering. Moxley's always won because of the interference. It's just like bloodline shit, right? And now Cope needs to take out all of the Death Riders before the match can happen so that he can have a legit one-on-one chance against Moxley. But it's not compelling. I still think that he's the completely wrong guy to be in this picture. But for whatever reason, they still have this Christian contract. And it's like their whole world title scene, from the Christian contract to the Death Riders briefcase to the fucking Cope, it's like all of it is so wrong. And it just is feeling very devil, and like it needs a complete reset. And like all of these connections need to be severed. Christian, Cope, Mox, all of it needs to be just done and over with at Revolution one way or another. And it's crazy that after a Swerve Strickland title reign, after a Samoa Joe decent short reign, Swerve Strickland and Bryan Danielson winning the title, we're back in I still wouldn't say this is as bad as the Devil. But
yeah, maybe either. It's not.
I'll say a main event scene that I have absolutely no invested interest in.
And on top of it, the rest of the show feels like it's kind of recovering. Like you've got, we'll talk about Tony at the main event, but the fact of the matter is, whatever you think of her, she's very popular and over with the fans. Hurt Business, super over with the fans. Great tag team champions. Mercedes got her groove back. Everybody's on her side now. Takeshita Omega could be a fantastic match for that title. You have so much cool stuff going on. And then you have this main event angle, which sucks. Like, there's nothing about it that's remotely good. The champions are like, and the thing is, these guys can be effective if they're used in the right ways. Edge, Cope, Jay White, Mox, Claudio, all of them have found ways to be enjoyable in one way or the other over the years. But the current package, I really agree with what you said. Like the devil, this needs to be over, and everyone needs to go away for a while. Like, just like the devil. Like, Cole and MGF were gone for months after that. And that's how it needed to be. Because of injury, yes, but it still needed to be that way. And we saw when they tried to go back to that, it was universally rejected. And the same is true with this Death Rider stuff. Remember when Cope brought out the wood board with the nails and tried to break over the briefcase?
Yes, that was. Oh, remember my friend Spike, and I was just like, God, this is what happens when you let a wrestler do whatever they want. Is you get shit like this.
I totally agree, and it's clear that Tony Khan and everyone respects him greatly, and all of that. And I have nothing against him. I mean, at one point, before his first neck injury, I was a huge fan of his and thought he could be like a top star. The rated R stuff I never thought was any good at all, like, to be honest with you. But I know that he was constantly in the main event scene. He did draw that one good rating when he threatened to have sex on TV once, and that drew a huge number. When he returned, he got a huge reaction at the Royal Rumble, and it felt like an epic moment that everyone loved. I think if you look at his creative ideas, remember the original incarnation of the Judgment Day?
Oh, dude, one of my favorite wrestling memes is like this thing, a video of Edge, and it's in like fast forward, like times 200 of him just talking for 15 minutes. And then it just cuts to Christian, and he just goes, "Your dad is dead." And it's just like, dun, 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 dun. It's like the difference between these two and their approaches. Like, Edge is such a, like, it seems like while he got away from wrestling, he got a very deep interest in acting, and he wants to monologue and monologue and monologue. And
he loves doing that.
So, like, tedious, and I feel like he could be so much more effective in shorter bursts, because these long monologues are becoming almost parody at this point.
And he's just like he's not cool anymore. Like, because like he once was one of the cool kids, right? But now he thinks Cope is cool. It's like everything is passed him by in terms of being a cool babyface. But listen, Nello, I know you saw him on Haven. I know you saw his acting on Haven. Are you telling me this man is not ready to monologue your life? What about the Viking show he was on? Did you see that?
No, I mean, I try to minimize the amount of Cope in my life, even
10 years ago, that's what you were thinking. To be fair, I was a fan of Haven, but I did like Warehouse 13 more. To be honest. So I do respect him for that. I'm not taking that away from him. And like I said, I think if he were like in a mid-card role, like kind of what Jericho is doing, like if that were him, I think he could make that work and be an exciting, like, legend guy, But him as the top babyface, first of all, he's all wrong for this role. Because this whole feud, again, the thing is the Death Riders feud is so freaking stupid. So illogical. There's no logic behind anything they do, because they started off telling us it was all about helping the young guys of AEW and the homegrown legends, or the homegrown young guys become legends. And now we've got Edge doing this. Like, somebody who's old, first of all, and secondly, is somebody who was a WWE guy. So Jay White, another one. Like, not a homegrown young guy. He's younger than Cope, but still not the right person for this angle. Jay White is like, the thing is, he's actually kind of okay in this role, though, as kind of like the buddy, like the buddy sidekick. It's just the angle is so bad that it kind of drags him down. I actually think his performances have not been bad, and I do like how they keep teasing. In this match, they teased him and Marina like going at it again, because he's the one who hit the Blade Runner on Marina at World's End, and that got a huge pop, and kind of made him look like a rebel, like, pretty much like he's the one that'll cross all the lines type of deal. But now he's kind of like Edge, Cope's buddy, pretty much is his role in this feud. he should have gotten a title shot here, in my opinion. Like,
I don't know why this. I really don't know why this wasn't a title shot against Jay White. And it's like, again, it's because this title is like booked in 4 different directions with all these different people, and it's so directionless, even with direction.
And somehow Yuta is the one that's the most over, like the most over heel.
Wheeler Yuta has been making the most decisions in world title defenses this like past year, so it seems like he's like the main factor.
I told you before we talked about it that they've kind of molded him into AEW's Dominic Mysterio, like the one that everyone hates. Like, you hear the "F you Yuta" chants all the time in all of his matches. And he's like a cowardly, smarmy heel. I think that's kind of better than where they were going at first with him, where it's like he was like an abuse survivor with them, pretty much. Like, they're always bullying him, and remember when they tried to attack him and like threatened to break his neck or whatever, and he just took it. That stuff was really bad, I thought. But him as a like wormy heel antagonist, I can get behind, to be honest. Even though I would have preferred him just be a babyface fighting them. Of course, I do want to reiterate that. But still, 6.16 rating for the tag match, 4 stars by Meltzer. Meltzer loves Cope. Go back and look at all of his matches in WWE. You can guarantee Meltzer is like a huge fan of his. Rates all of his matches high. But the inmates weren't feeling it. This is the lowest rated match on the show. And I think they're about right on that one. Cope and Mox at the pay-per-view, I have no interest, but I agree. I fear that he's going to win and Christian will cash in. And I hope, if nothing else, this isn't all because Darby wants to climb Mount Everest, so they have to wait for him to get back. If that's me, it's like, no. No. Like, we're not going to wait for someone to climb Mount Everest to do this horrible storyline that is universally hated by everyone. Like, we're going to change the title. I would have thought about it. I think if they had flipped the title to Hobbs when he had the title shot, that wouldn't have been the worst idea. Just abort mission. You complete what was supposedly the goal of the storyline and get a young guy over. You can at least go from there. I honestly think, by any means necessary, Cope would be worse than most people on the roster, but still better than the Death Riders continuing to hold the title. Like, I think literally anybody would be better at this point as champion than Mox. They have to get the title and this group out of the main event storyline, in my opinion, like, by any means.
What does Moxley do? What do the Death Riders do after this?
Just like we said, I think they need to go, like, for a while to reset. And I mean, it's unfortunate because they're talented guys, but I think we saw it with Cole and MJF. Look at Cole when he came back. He wasn't the devil again. He totally retconned all that stuff and went back to the way that people liked him. And and by the way, that his group is doing a lot better than the Kingdom was doing right now. The fans are really into it. So I think that's what we need. Just abort all of this and come back as just the Mox we all knew beforehand, and we'll just move on from all of this. And occasionally MJF will bring it up in like a year from now and talk about how bad it was in one of his promos. But I cannot believe Cope lost if he's challenged for the title. But whatever. Up next, Okada defends the international title versus Buddy Matthews. Boy, does it feel like Okada's lost a lot since that win he had in the final of that tournament in the month. I thought this was a fine match. I'm definitely a fan of Buddy. It wasn't too special, though, I would say. Right now the fans have it. The inmates have it at 6.69. This also had 4 stars from Dave. I think 7 out of 10 feels about right to me. One of the highlights was Buddy doing the prism trap. And then Nigel was like, that looks like a tribute, if you know what I mean, on there. And that led to Okada using a low blow to win with the Rainmaker. And then he gave him the middle finger. I just think Okada, this was like basic Okada match number 500.
Yes, totally agree. Like I would go 3.25 on this. I remember when Buddy first left WWE, and remember like his first match was against Okada on a New Japan Strong show.
Yeah.
And it was pretty lackluster, but I would still say that one was at least better than this one. I think that Buddy deserved a much better Okada than Okada gave him. I think that much like Harley, you could have made this into a more compelling story. And
they really did put a lot of effort into the build to this.
Any great match should leave you wanting to see it again, and this did not do that. By no means was it bad, though.
The fans called Okada a waker. They chanted for that. So that's something. Buddy did get on Twitter and blame the ring too, because I think he twisted his ankle on this, and it's tough. That was a big problem. A lot of the WCW guys when they came to WWE, was like the rings in WCW were smaller, so they would have to adjust. That extra step on a rope run can be problematic at first. It's not like a huge deal, but it is something you have to kind of work through. So he had a little bit of trouble there. It's fine. You have to say, there was no possible way he was going to win this match either. But it was nice that they put a lot of effort into the Australia way, which makes it even more weird that White didn't get the title shot here. Especially if you're going to pin Cope or tap out Cope or he's going to fade away, whatever. So they come in, they recap and I do have to say the video package for Tony and Mariah was pretty epic that Renee narrated. They built this up, this whole thing. It was all a trick. Tony never had amnesia. She was never traumatized. It was all a great performance for Timeless Tony. She pretended it all, and she's now back to herself. They start off with her old music playing, and Luther comes out.
Did you see the interview she did with Renee, where Renee's like, "Can we see the other Tony Storm?" And she just like gets up and does like rocker fingers. She's like, "Rock on, yeah." And then she sits back down, and they're like, "Wow, that is just incredible,
unbelievable." Yeah. It's very hard to do that, after all. They have like an epic stare down at the start, I hear, and the crowd's into this a lot. Like, this was the main event of the show, obviously. They tease Mariah going for Mayday earlier, and then they go outside into the barricade to set up the break, and that led to the second half of the match, where they fight. They go into the corner, and that leads to Storm using the hip attack into the corner, and basically just hit a bunch of finishers for like the last 5 minutes of the match over and over. But May hit a couple of Maydays. They look for a big move from the top rope, but Tony counters that into the Storm Zero. Mariah hit a Storm Zero, and that led to Tony using the small package for the quick win. After May had no sold the original Storm Zero. The thing is, I saw a lot of complaints about the Inside Cradle ending. I actually like it, especially since it's a part of her story. What I didn't like
doing
is that
in all of her matches.
But they just wanted an epic finish to the rivalry. Like, I get the complaint, but I don't agree with it. I agree with you. Like, that they built it up perfect to that where that was a good finish. The problem was the match didn't build it up perfect because they did all of these finishers that led to the Inside Cradle. If they had done it as a true flash win, I would go for that. I don't like it. You're hitting your finisher only for May to stand up immediately and wander into the small package. I didn't like the last half of the match very much at all, to be honest. It's just like, okay, like this doesn't really fit in general, I didn't think there was enough for this blood feud. I would have liked to have seen a lot more violence in this dramatic blow off. And instead we got what we got, which, I mean, it doesn't matter. The fans loved it anyway. Another thing I didn't like. So she wins and she goes to the turnbuckle and the show ends. This is a constant problem, which they rectified on Dynamite, to be fair. I love that they gave her a segment all her own to celebrate her win. That was totally necessary. But at the time when I watched it, so it's, I will retract that criticism in hindsight. But at the time I thought, man, can they not just give us an extra 30 seconds to let this breathe? And but like I said, they made up for it on Dynamite. But I didn't like the way the match was laid out. It was performed fine, but I just didn't think that they could have built up to the finish a lot better, than how they did, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd go 3 3/4 on this. I don't think it was an exceptional match. I thought it was really good, though, still. I loved the character work. I agree that the second half, it had me tense. It had me enthralled, but it didn't climax in the way that they could have done it, like you said. I don't think this is the last match between them. I feel like they need to do a rubber match now as well. I think that. I would like to see that be a no DQ or some sort of ridiculous fucking stipulation that maybe is more thematically tied to them, right? Like you could create some
cinematic match,
glamour of doom, doom hell, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, I would like to see one more between them because if I'm not mistaken, they're now 1-1, right?
Yep.
And I think that there's really no one else set up for Tony at this point. So why not? I would run it back at Revolution, honestly.
I think that they need a proper end to the feud. Are they doing the April pay-per-view Dynasty this year?
I have no clue if they've announced it yet. They announced Double or Nothing for here, actually, so I'm going to try to go to that.
Oh, cool. We'll have a live report after that.
Yeah.
It's got a 7.10 on Cage Match, 4.5 stars for Meltzer, so he loved this match. I thought it was, it worked for the crowd. They did what they needed to. I didn't mind the finish. It was more so the back half of the match in its entirety that I thought didn't lead up to it. But I didn't think it was they did anything that took away from where they're already at. I was really happy to see the segment on Dynamite, as I stated before, with her getting her moment in the sun, pretty much, and calling herself the whore we adore. There, and she said some other stuff too. She was going on there. She said that she said Mariah May, you sick bitch, coming in there. She hyped her movie, The Queen of the Ring. That was very funny. And she basically said that the tramp is here and that she is timeless. And hopefully they get away. Oh, she talked about I want to fight Willow and Statlander and the top contender, Wendy Richter. So surely they're going to have somebody like that to do a cameo appearance, right?
I really hope so because she's talked about her so much. I'll be devastated if not.
I agree with you though. Blow out this feud in a violent climactic match. Although to be honest with you, for the fans, this kind of felt like the climax of the feud, her coming back, even though they are 1-1. Mm-hmm. We'll see if they have anything left in the tank for another go around afterward, and where Mariah goes from here. After her title reign, I don't think her title reign was. I wouldn't give it an A rating. Let's put it that way. Just her in general.
No, and here's the thing: she did everything she could with it. I just felt like they never had an opponent for her, really, because it was always just waiting for Tony to come back.
That's the problem. That's the problem I had with this match. There was no way Mariah was winning this match in my mind. So there really wasn't any drama for me personally. I thought it would be such a minute chance that I thought Tony would lose here that it just, I don't know. This whole thing has never grabbed me as much, but I know you and a lot of people love it a lot. I know I'm in the minority on that, but I'm interested to see where they go apart from each other. There's part of me that kind of wants them to stay apart but I also think there's logic in doing one final violent match as well. So we'll see where it goes. But overall, show was good. Like, Grand Slam was a success. The ratings showed it was good. The main event was a climax to one of your major, most story that you put the most into. The opening tag match to me was the best match on the show. And even that, I thought that they have a better match in them if they wrestled again in a few months. But still, it was a good show overall. Nothing else was that bad, but it's hard to ignore that the main event storyline is so terrible that it kind of drags the entire promotion down with it. Even on a good show like this, I would say. But I still thought it was a pretty good show overall.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, for as much drama as there was around the entire event, from it being relocated to the tickets to it not being an actual pay-per-view to it being a network special to then it being a not even live special. Like, they still delivered. And for better or worse, that's AEW, like they could literally they could literally not promote a single thing and still have a great pay-per-view somehow. So, but they need to get it together for it to all really take off again. So.
And the shows in general have improved, in my opinion, the last month or so. There's that rumor that came about that Tony Khan has really, he's taken over pretty much. Like, he's cut through a lot of the writers and the other voices and just really taken a hands-on approach. And it's proven that that's improved the show. I think that should tell him something about the people he employs that were writing the show for a little while there. But overall, definitely a success. Grand Slam Australia. As a show, I'd give it around a 7 out of 10 or so. I wouldn't say it was a great show, but it was good. Definitely worth watching. The tag match I loved. If you're into the May and Tony stuff, I think you'll really enjoy the main event. And the rest was good. It's got an 8.19 rating on Cage Match right now, so the inmates loved it a lot. I thought it was a great show. The only other match I think that we haven't talked about that'll be on Revolution is the Hangman and MJF match they set up. Very interesting that Jeff Jarrett has not been on these last couple of great shows. I'll notice that because they did all of that with MJF and they cut that horrible promo on each other where they were talking about your mom and all this stuff. And it was like, come on, what are you doing out here? And they just said, nope, we're not doing this feud anymore. MJF and Hangman is where we're going with it. And also, Daniels is his mentor, although that's never actually been stated on TV, but that's fine. We know it's real, so it's good. I thought their segment was one of the best MJF promos in a long time. The face-off they had on Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
And the best Hangman segment in a long time when he said it felt like he finally escaped from this cartoon version of himself he's been playing lately. And he said it himself. He said, the thing that makes me great and that you'll never have is that I'm real.
Mm-hmm.
It's yes, this is main event Hangman back again.
Dude, I would love for nothing more than for Hangman to be the one to beat Moxley. Because actually, it would make sense that whoever wins between Hangman and MJF is the next number one contender.
That would be great. I think that would be a great way to really cycle back to his whole character arc. I love the thing they did. Remember the week where he went looking for Swerve?
Oh, yeah.
And then the next week they asked him about it. He said, that was a moment of weakness. Don't bring that up again. But it kind of shows you that, with this Daniel stuff, that his character is really at war with himself. And I think they've done an excellent job with that, and he's done a fantastic job himself. And it culminated with that excellent promo segment that they had with him and MJF. The Brawl segment they had a week before was awesome. That was one of the best of the whole year, too, to me. Where Hangman went backstage and he burst out, ran out with no music. I was like, yeah, it's this is my wrestling right now. We don't get enough of that. Guys flying out from the back, no music, no pose, none of that bullcrap. He ran out to beat the hell out of MJF. It was awesome. And I thought the promo was great. And MJF was kind of the same. They did the same little tropes that he always does where Hangman was yeah, you say all this, but you wanted to be liked by fans and you didn't do it. And he was like, no, shut up, don't shut the hell up, and all that. Like, he's all cool, and then he breaks and has this yelling and screaming fit. Like, he's done it a million times. But with Hangman, I thought it totally worked. I think that match feels like the main event of the show, honestly, or at least the most anticipated match based on the feud. I think that Omega and Takeshita will be the most anticipated match in terms of the match itself. But in terms of the feud, MJF and Hangman has been a great pivot from MJF and Jarrett, which to me was not working.
Yeah, no, the Jarrett thing was abysmal. I'm still out on MJF. Like, he has so much rehabilitation work to do. But I agree that this is a step in the right direction, and Hangman will forever be my guy.
I totally agree. I'm not saying MJF's good all of a sudden, like some people online are. They're like, oh, look at you now. He had one good segment in 3 years, and you were all wrong, all you haters. No, he sucked for all of this time. I still believe that. But he did. I'm calling a spade a spade. It's just like CM Punk. If he does something good, that Hell in a Cell match with Drew was a great match. That doesn't mean I suddenly like him or think he's great. But I will be fair and tell the truth overall. So, but that said, Revolution coming up should be a good show. I have no interest in the main event, but everything else is pretty cool and interesting. So, from there, let's talk about Vengeance Day. This was the big NXT show that happened, and coming into this, I'm really not a fan of the show, like the weekly show. I've kind of dropped out of that for a while now, to be honest. I know there's a lot of controversy around Corey Graves coming in, and he was pissed about it as the third man on the team. But it feels like he's fallen in line after a while by the time we got to this show. Did you have any idea about the storylines going into this show?
None.
Yeah,
absolutely none.
I mean, I knew that Briggs and Inamura were a team. And I knew
I knew that because I saw the gif of him hitting the splash. I knew that Stephanie Vaquer was the number one contender. And I knew that Theory and Grayson Waller were on NXT for some reason.
I knew that Paige and Evans had a feud. And I knew that they kept adding people to the women's match in the main event for whatever reason. I guess because they just kept fighting. Like, everybody they wanted to put in against Julia, they did not want to beat, so they had to keep adding people until they finally found someone that they could beat, who is also in TNA. No, like, they've sent to TNA to challenge for the Knockouts title. But yeah. So with that said, we have some knowledge, but not that much.
Sorry, what was that?
We have some knowledge of the storylines, but not that much overall. We're not dedicated viewers.
Yeah, that's about my extent of like NXT relationship. So I'm aware, but I'm not invested.
The show started off. By the way, weird start time. 5 p.m. Central. Here, like, I don't know why it was so early. I guess because of the All-Star stuff going on. This is the same night as all that, by the way. This Vengeance Day show. It was from Washington, D.C., the Care First Arena. A successful show for NXT here. The first match was the aforementioned Stephanie Vaquer challenging for the women's North American title versus Fallon Henley. I have to say, I really, really like this group that Henley's got. Like, I don't love the name. Like, Fatal Influence is about as generic as you could get. Like, that sounds like such a 90s movie. Everyone says Fatal Attraction accidentally. But I like what they've got going. Like, their vibe is really good. I think their entrance theme has to be one of the best that I've heard in WWE or NXT. Hindley has like a really good aura about her. She's got good swag, like really knows how to carry herself as a champion. And she was wrestling against somebody who is an absolutely phenomenal in-ring talent here. I thought Vaquer was so damn good here. I thought she totally made this match work. Hindley, I really think is like, I would say is like average for a long time. Since she's turned heel, she's been above average, but not great. But against Vaquer, I think they unlocked something in her. And I think Stephanie was so good that she really brought the best out of her. And I thought this was actually a heck of an opener, like overachieved on my expectations. Hindley did a great job controlling the match as the heel. It led to a great babyface comeback from Stephanie. The crowd went crazy when she did the thigh driver thing, like pounding her head into the mat over and over. Booker T was losing his mind on commentary. It was ridiculous.
I couldn't remember. What was Booker T saying on commentary? Could you remind me?
Yeah, he said a lot of things, but he was saying, like, I think he said something like, "Oh boy,
anytime she hits the mat, it's just just like,
yeah." And Vic was like, "Book, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "Shucky ducky quack quack." I was like, "Dude, what?" Yeah. And even Corey was like, "What the hell is going on here?" But yeah, that was nuts. But still, the crowd popped for it. It's a great move. And the finish was her hitting the Cancun Tornado, which looked fun, which looked great. I thought this was a great opener. Like, I thought this was a really strong match. 7.31 from the inmates. 4.25 from Meltzer. I'm probably somewhere in between that. I wouldn't say it's 4.25 good, but it was a really good opener. And as I said, I didn't have that high expectations for Hindley. I think the group is great, adds to her aura. I thought she really defended the title well, and Stephanie's just awesome. Like, one of the best overall performers to me. What'd you think?
Yeah, really well said. I was very surprised by this. Fallon Henley is like the last time I remember watching her in a match was when she was tag teaming with Kiana James for the titles. Like, that's really the last time I remember. So I was like, wow, this is impressive.
She's a lot better now.
She's been in Iron Survivors or whatever, but dude, you know what this felt like to me above all was just a submission match. I was so impressed by the submission work in this match. The whole opening was just really solid grappling. Like, I was like, especially with these new NXT people, it's the psychology that lacks a lot of the time. Fallon had really great submission grappling to psychology. She was going for the legs and just like the match made sense. And it was a great outcome. I'm very happy for Vaquer. I was worried that they would give her the kind of Julia treatment, which is to say loses the first title attempt, wins the second one. So I'm really happy they just went with it this time. Yeah, this was I would go like, okay, remember when I was just talking about 3.5? Like, this is a really amazing 3.5 star Fallon Henley match to me.
Yeah, I love the submission stuff. There's a part where Stephanie was trying to do like a lucha style arm drag where she wheelbarrowed into it, and then Hindley caught her and turned it into a cross arm bar, which is really good. Like you said, a lot of great submission work. I would go even higher than that, but I think that's about right. It'd be like 3.75 for me here. I'll go ahead and go the line there. And I think they've got something with this group too. I think that they have a great look together. JC Jane has been in NXT for like a decade, it feels like. Is she ever going to get called up to the main roster? And I think at this time, like, if somebody loses the title, that makes you feel like, is so-and-so getting called up? Here. And I think you could do something with this.
Okay, group. So we have, what is that one group on the main roster called? Pure Fusion Collective?
That's done now. Well, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but yeah.
So replace them with these girls.
Yeah, exactly. Like, kind of like a heel stable. And I think this has a lot. These three carry themselves way more like stars than Pure Fusion Collective. like with all due respect to them. And I'm a big fan of Zoe Stark as a wrestler, but in terms of like, Fallon had something here that she didn't have when she was teaming with Kiana James and in the cowboy gimmick or whatever she was doing. I like that she still has like traces of her old gimmick in this heel run, with the intro with the coat and the hat and all that. I love her entrance where she tosses the coat into the camera every time. That's a really good entrance. And like I said, I love the music that they have. They definitely need to keep that. But Stephanie totally deserves this belt. I love what they've done with the women's division in general. It's been said a lot, but they've really got it right. Like with these titles and the women holding them, like they really have made this work. I thought this was a really strong match overall. So really cool stuff there. Big praise for Fallon Henley. Love her submission game that she had here. And Stephanie, I cannot praise enough. They go over. Now, I did praise the women's division a second ago, but that we do have to criticize something next. What did you think of the Zarya video with Sol Ruka?
Was this the workout video, like at the park or whatever?
They were at the beach, and like she got her an ice cream cone, and then the ice cream fell off the ice cream cone. And they literally played the wah wah sound effect.
This is like very Palm. This is very Palm and Max the Impaler.
It totally is like that.
But I feel like they don't have enough contrast because Zarya just has like some, face paint around her eyes and wears like and has like sort of an eclectic haircut. And then like Sol's just like a surfer chick. Like they don't look that different. Right. But like Max the Impaler and Palm is such a contrast that it really is like it makes it like what was it? The Max Futari Princess tournament thing, the tag tournament that just ended. Yeah. Max Hart. Sorry. Great finals, by the way. And I think that that's kind of what they're going for, but they need to make them more different. There needs to be a bigger contrast, like really amp up Zarya's wasteland gimmick, right? Really make Sol a little more preppy or surfer. Like I think that that's where the charm is going to lie is the differences. It's very Team Hell No in the same sense, right? But yeah, I think there's something there, but I think they need to commit more to it.
Well, by the way, me and Striga did talk about the Max Hart tournament final with Palm and Max the Impaler on our latest Eastern Lariat, if you guys want to listen to that. But I just thought that this was so. The thing is, Sol has been like a serious competitor. Remember in the Iron Survivor, she was one of the main people in that, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And I think for this to work, like you said, it has to be somebody totally unbelievable, like and Zarya has to be more of a monster because when she came in, like you said, they had those great videos where she was beating the hell out of like 4 guys in an apocalyptic wasteland or whatever, which apparently that's how they think Australia is, like just the land of the it's Fallout pretty much. But instead we saw in AEW prove that Australia is a normal place, so thankfully we had that. But yeah, Sol's just a surfer girl. And she tried to show her how to skateboard and all that stuff. Then the ice cream. To me, though, in WWE, I don't think this can work with the monsters they have because it feels like if you're a WWE monster, like you have a life cycle where at first you're unbeatable, like scary and dominant, and you destroy everybody. Then after a few years, that winds down, it gets old, and then you transition into comedic giant babyface. We've seen it a ton of times. Just look no further than Santino and Kozlov, and Santino was on the show that they had, and many, many others. And I feel like they did a speed run through all of the monster gimmicks in WWE in record time with Zarya to where she's already doing the comedic stuff. We don't have enough of her destroying people. Like, she's not been the champion. She hasn't injured anyone. She hasn't done anything crazy. She's been a cool wrestler, but not monstrous enough to warrant this without it looking like, okay, we've kind of given up on you. Like, we're already putting you in this comedic gimmick, which that would have me worried if I were a Zarya fan, is all I'm saying on that end. But wah. Very funny. Up next was the tag team titles match between Yoshiki Inamura and Josh Briggs, Team Noah, which they did shout out that they are from Noah. Inamura is from Noah anyway. They took on Fraxium, Nathan Fraser, and Axiom. As usual, I think Axiom is an excellent wrestler. I think he's one of the best on the roster. Frazier, I think there's a lot that he does well, but I do think as an all-around wrestler, I think he's kind of lacking compared to Axiom. I think he's much better. Like, shout out to a really good friend of mine, Amy Hay on Twitter. She mentioned how Frazier, like, his deal is that he runs the ropes, same as Masato Yoshino back in the day. He's the fastest guy, never slows down. But the problem is when he runs the ropes, that's great. But if he tries to do that, suddenly there's a spot in this match where he ran to the corner and he did like a really weak, slow build up to a splash in the corner. And it's like you have to do everything full force if you're going to do that, not halfway. Like you can't do the high speed stuff with the ropes and then slow down on a splash in the corner. The crowd was really into Inamura here, which I was very surprised by. There was an amazing spot early where Axiom hit his golden ratio, like running calf kick, which looked freaking great. The crowd went nuts for that. And they rallied behind Inamura, which I was really surprised by. Inamura was like super over to the crowd. Briggs was doing his big man spots, beating up the smaller guy. They were working around him. At one point, Frazier left onto Inamura's back for the small guy, big guy spot, which led to Inamura doing the spin move that knocked both of them down. They went for the splash and missed, and everybody was shaking from the splash. But in the end, they come in and hit this crazy finisher where Frazier ended up hitting a drop kick from the top rope, and at the same time, Axiom hit a leg sweep, like a total elimination style, on Inamura to get the win. I thought this was a really good match again. And they really had me, the crowd was so into Inamura and Briggs that I thought, okay, maybe this could be it. This is the big guys finally getting their win. To me, this was the best match on the show, actually. I liked it even better than the opener.
So I have a friend, Isai, shout out Isai, who loves NXT.
Shout out Isai.
He hit me up. He's like, hey, Yoshiki Inamura? I'm like, yeah. He's like, he's on NXT. How would you explain him as a Noah guy? And I'm like, okay, so they're obviously interested in him, but he's never really there. This is his third excursion, I feel like.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Cause they brought him back for the last N1 with a completely new gladiator gimmick, all that shit. And then he just went to NXT on an excursion. So it's really funny trying to explain Inamura from a Noah standpoint, because he's had such a perplexing career in that sense of if anyone's had start booking, it's this dude, because he gets a big push and then he goes to the UK for a year. He gets a big push and now he's on American TV, which you know what? Good for this guy. He's getting a lot under his belt, and it seems like if anything, there may be a place in WWE for him. But I really hope Noah uses him soon. It's crazy that Ozawa came back from fucking excursion and is GHC champion, and Inamura still hasn't had a meaningful N1 run yet. So this to me was one of Inamura's career highlights. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. It was my favorite match on the show. Really well worked. Inamura is just a great worker. I had a blast watching him go. He is so strong. He is they're doing a great job showcasing him here. I would say if there is a testament to something that NXT and WWE is doing correct right now, it is that historically they have been absolute dog shit at booking Asian competitors, right?
Yes.
Inamura would have been 10 years ago, Yoshitatsu, right, coming in, and they were just booking this guy an absolute badass who he is. He's just a wrestler's wrestler. He is strong. He can brawl, and he can fucking fly still somehow. And they're doing a great job pushing him. I hope he doesn't fall off now. I would like for him to still hope, and I say this I'm going to watch TV, but you make Yoshiki Inamura your NXT champion, you'll have a new viewer for sure.
I think he's benefiting from having a tag team. Like being with Briggs helps him not go into the hole of like anything crazy that they would want to do with him. But yeah, as a wrestler, he's phenomenal. Like there's no shame in his game or flaws with him. I think Briggs has proven in NXT. We had that triple threat match last year around this time with Femi and I forget who the third guy was. It may have been Dijak at the time still, but they had like an awesome
Femi and Briggs. Yep.
Yeah. And like he's proven between that and this tag match that he can get it done in this scenario. I still don't know how much upside he has beyond giving the Evolve title away with the new Evolve show on Tubi. Like he needs to defend his title. Like he never lost the Evolve title. They have to bring it back. But I thought he did really good here against the small guys. And Fraxium, I agree with the haters of the Observer Awards. Fraxium should have been the tag team of the year instead of the Young Bucks overall.
Yep. I even agree with that. And I don't watch NXT.
Well, every time they're on these big shows, they deliver big. And like I said, I really respect them. I wonder what they're going to do with them long term. Because them on the main roster, it's just going to be tough. I feel like. But who knows? I mean, on SmackDown, you've got the Machine Guns there. They set up them versus the Hardy Boys at Stand and Deliver. Fraxium versus the Hardys. They teased, so that's a major spot for them.
Death taxes Matt Hardy still finding fucking work, dude. It's crazy.
They were in TNA this whole time.
No, I know, but now he's back. He's gonna be on Stand and Deliver. Are you kidding me, dude? What? It's just not fair. Some things aren't fair.
Well, what about Jeff?
Hey, good for Jeff. I mean, he could tag with. He could solo. It's just Fraxium versus Jeff.
Wow, hater alert here. I'm Matt Hardy, but afterwards they all shake hands. Cool moment. Then 4 people come in and beat him up.
Oh yeah.
Who these were.
Neither do I. I was gonna text you, but then I was like, I bet Dylan doesn't know either.
No, I didn't know at all. Like this is one of the storylines I wasn't familiar with.
You're telling me you're not familiar with Dion Lennox and Osiris Coffin and fucking whatever their names are?
Well, Dion Lennox was actually a wrestler on NXT before, but everyone else I think is new. But I guess we're just supposed to pretend now that they've let go of Cedric, Dion is now just going to be on his own. I would say. They have a vignette with the family. They were talking about how Izzy Dame turned on them. This is another thing I missed here. But Channing Stax Lorenzo says, "We're the family. We're going to take care of this on our own." Thanks for letting us know, Stax. So apparently Tony D has gotten the hell beat out of him by Sean Spears and friends, his group. Whatever. Like they go in, they recap Eddie Thorpe and Trick Williams. Thorpe screwed over Trick for the NXT title. Now they're fighting. The strap match was Eddie's idea. I thought this was the least interesting match on the show, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Trickster still has not found it in ring yet, and I think when you give wrestlers who perhaps aren't like, oh, I can work a match with Ilya where he's like ring generally me, right? Awesome.
I was there for that. I was there live.
Yeah, like strap match that's a heavy psychology match in my opinion for like a great strap match. And Trick just doesn't have it, and Eddie is still yet to really become a captivating character in NXT. I still really wish I could have seen what he did with New Japan. Like I think he could have been in this War Dog stable. Yeah, he could have done some like. It sucks because like right after he left, it feels like they finally started bringing over the LA Dojo guy, and like his frustrations seem to kind of get answered for the other guys or whatever. Because it's been 3 years now, they said, and this was his first PLE appearance.
Wow.
Yeah. So, like, I cannot believe that statistic. He, like, it sucks because Trick is definitely one of your main characters on NXT, right? But he just doesn't really elevate people, unfortunately. So it's like, even if you're able to get into this sort of main event style feud with this guy who was just champion and is like arguably a face of the company, it's like it's not going to do you any favors anyway. He just still gets to be him, but like
I think the best use of Trick, I would call him up, honestly. Like, I don't think he has anything left in NXT. I would reunite him and Carmelo on the main roster. That's when they were at their peaks. Carmelo's kind of been floundering a little bit lately. Put him and Trick together. Let them run roughshod on SmackDown for a little while. And they can kind of hopefully Trick can get there. And if not, then you at least have a good hype man, that you can bring in. But I mean, Trick has great charisma. Like, he knows how to carry himself. He really feels like as soon as he walks out, you feel like that's somebody. Like, if you never saw this show, you think, okay, this is a guy. But like you said, in the ring, that he's just missing something. And Thorpe, I think, has almost nothing. To be honest, like, I think he's average in ring and as a character. It seemed like they were trying to do a bit more heel stuff with him here, which is an improvement to where he was. But he was hailed as a top prospect in New Japan at the time. When he first came in, he was like the guy that everyone pointed to as like he could be a star, more so than Gabe Kidd or Clark Connors or anybody like that. But it just has not come together. But on the other hand, do you think he regrets it considering he's dating Dakota Kai? Was that not worth it?
Yeah. That works.
I think he'll be fine. Like, overall, like, I'm not gonna feel too bad for him. Is all I'm saying. And to be honest, he won. Like, he won clean here. With his like really weak Busaiku knee strike that he did here on Trick. I didn't think this was a great match. Long story short, the inmates gave this. They gave this a 5.38 rating. Meltzer gave it 3 3/4. Meltzer, like, man, he is on a high mark. I mean, he gave that tag match, Fraxine and Briggs and Inamura, 4.5 stars.
So to be fair, I did smoke Dave out before the show. So he was really feeling his ratings during this one. He had the notepad out, scribbling. Yep. Norovirus, smoking with Dave Meltzer.
Well, I mean, the inmates did give the tag match 8.40. So, which, I mean, it was a great match. Don't get me wrong. I think 8 out of 10 would be accurate. 5 out of 10 would probably be accurate for this as well. So I again side with the inmates on this one.
Likewise.
Much more so than Dave, I will say. Then we see a man who we did not know the name of at the time that we saw it, but it has since been revealed. Ricky Saints is here at NXT. Thoughts?
If I'm Tony Khan, I'm telling Coke that you're getting choked out at Grand Slam and then you're going to get pinned clean at Revolution because you fucked us and we lost Ricky Starks. I think there's so much long-term value in this guy, man. I remember going to my first AEW event. This was 2 years ago. And this was what was it? I can't really remember, sorry. But it was 3 people that I saw, and I was like, these are like 3 performers who just get wrestling. Like, they were on the entire time from the second they stepped out to the second they walked back. It was Jeff Jarrett, Emi Sakura, and Ricky Starks. And I was like, these are 3 live performers that I feel like are just so clued in on what professional wrestling is about, right? And I'll never forget that. And each time I've seen Starks, because I saw him drop the titles to Sting live as well in Arizona. And There's so much upside to this guy. I think he is a future world champion. I think he should have beat MJF when he was feuding with him. Like this is who people think MJF, like the value that AEW sees in MJF, I think actually exists in Ricky Starks.
I think that promo he cut against MJF, where he talked about how you can't handle the responsibility of being champion, and I will remove those responsibilities because everything about you is cheap. Cheap suits, cheap insults. That had to be one of the best promos in AEW history.
Dude, and how many great matches did he have too? Like
him versus Bryan was our match of the year. Like
him versus Bryan when he came in versus Cody when he was just like an NWA TV champ. You know, like fuck, dude. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating just because like I am someone who wanted to see him succeed so hard in AEW, and instead I've seen AEW continuously invest in guys that I think are not bringing value to the company in the ways they believe.
Yeah. And that's why, to me, AEW at their worst is a lot more frustrating than WWE, because with WWE, it's like we kind of know the score on all of their flaws. AEW could be great, but they kind of choose to screw up like a lot of the time. But what you're not understanding, though, and if you're in Tony Khan's shoes, you have to manage this fact. He hurt Cope's feelings in that promo, though.
Bug eyes.
Yeah, like he made him very mad, and that really caused a lot of drama. And after that happened, he had to go. It was either Cope or Starks, and Tony Khan said no.
If that's really what it is, if that was really what set it off, like I will just. It's one of those things where it's like, how thin does your skin have to be to where like you're gonna be like, I don't want this person to be able to do their job anymore. Like, you coward. And I say this all knowing absolutely nothing. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Cope or Tony Khan is the coward.
Fuck, dude. Anyone, like, you know, it's just unfortunate. It's an unfortunate situation because he really was becoming one of the dudes, like in terms of Garcia, Darby, like he was.
And he's a better all-arounder than those guys. Like in my opinion, like if you combine promo and Darby is like an excellent wrestler, like top tier. Danny's done a great job and grown for sure, but Starks I think has higher upside. Like overall, it's a much better promo as he's already proven, and like in NXT pretty much. Like he was a guy that could carry a company. I agree with you. Like I think that they really fumbled the bag with him. I think he really made the best out of that whole situation. Being sidelined for this whole year. He did everything he could to not be like Miro and disappear to where we've all forgotten about him. He maintained a spot in the public eye the entire time to the point where people really started to feel sympathy for him. They wanted him back. He said he wanted to come back. I mean, who knows what political stuff happened backstage? It might, I don't want to put it on. It's not like we know for sure, Cope made any call like that, but we know that something got messed up. We know that he got his feelings hurt in the promo. Like, that's for sure. What came after that, we can only speculate on. But Starks never let himself, or Saints now, never let himself be forgotten about. He was always putting himself out there and putting the pressure and putting the ball in AEW's court. And I think it was very smart of both him and WWE. One day after it was announced he got let go, he's on the next show, like the next day. I actually think the thing that WWE messed up on, I would have had him on the main roster. I think that he's a main roster player, the same way Penta. Like, I think he would have gotten a huge pop when he came out. Yeah,
I definitely think he's a main roster player, which is why I see the value in bringing him into NXT first.
Right. And especially I think right now, heading into Mania, it would be kind of tough. But I do think he would have gotten an amazing pop if he had come out on Raw.
I would totally do Starks' run, though. Remember that era of NXT where it's like you have Nakamura, then McIntyre, then Bobby Roode, then Samoa Joe, where it's like your NXT run is that they come in, they have their first feud, their second feud, which gets them number one contendership, and then they win the title, they drop it to the next big guy, and then they're off to the big roster. I feel like that's all you've got to do with Starks in NXT is just give him the actual run that will matter on his resume once he gets to the main roster. Help him elevate people that you need to elevate. He's a legit contender that I think can beat Obafemi for the title. And like, I think Obafemi more than Trick Williams is ready for the main roster.
Yeah. I totally agree with that, actually. I think with Trick, he has Carmelo that he can be paired with, and that will help him. Mm-hmm. With Oba, I think if you're asking me who I believe in more as a single star or who's a better all-around performer, it's Oba. For sure, the Trick. Like, I 100% agree with that. If they want to give him a big push, the problem is...
Dude, okay, just imagine a tag team of Omos and Oba.
Would that... We know what Omos can do in Noah. Put them together.
That would be fucking awesome, dude. They would be such a great monster team. Sorry for cutting you off again.
No. I was just gonna say, like, they could be like WWE's version of Hurt Business, like Hurt Syndicate, like, you know, just an unstoppable Road Warriors type of monster team that everyone loves.
Yep, they would be so fucking over, dude.
I know that's what happened with Oba in NXT. The fans turned him babyface because he's awesome. Like, what is there to dislike about him? You know. You have to get behind him because he's just freaking cool. Oba is great. We'll talk about him in a second. But Ricky, great wrestler. Love his promo skills. He's already shown it in NXT, and I think everyone's happy with him. I agree with what you said that him carrying the title could be good for him long term. I just think I would rather, because you have so few opportunities where a guy will be released and you can bring him on the next day, that I would have liked to have seen the strike while the iron's hot in this very rare scenario of it happening. And maybe it'll be different going forward. We don't know how it'll play out. We'll briefly talk about the releases after we're done with the show. But Ricky, we love him. We think he has all the potential in the world to be a main eventer. Totally agree with what Nello said. Very well said on his part. And what do you think about the name, Ricky Saints?
I think a lot of people said Ricky Saint would have been better, and I agree with that. But sounds good.
He's for doing.
Oh my god. So the one thing that actually makes me wonder is, and I feel like this is not something for everyone, but as a Defy fan, I wonder if Starks is allowed to actually drop the title or if he's going to have to vacate it, because the weekend, pretty much the day before he was released, I believe that he won the Defy title at their 8th anniversary show on Sunday. And then he was released Monday, and then he debuted on NXT Tuesday. So I hope that he is able, as a Defy diehard, able to still work that date and presumably just drop the title right away. Just because I was excited to see what he would do in Seattle. But yeah, man, also the fact that they debuted him immediately says something, because I think that WWE is absolutely going to bring back in Malachi Black as well. But like, they did not just bring him back on TV right away, right? The fact that they signed Starks and had him debut the way they did, they know what they have, and they chose to make a statement with it, and they did. Because they took the guy who's been off TV, and that's the thing, right? Is they take these guys off TV to try and, you know, they're not going to invest in them. They're going to try to kill their buzz so that when they go to a different company, it's not as much. But like, they didn't do anything to hurt Saints' stock, right?
No, not. I think that's a lot because of him. Like I said, he never let himself drop out of. And we're seeing with Phoenix right now, he's doing his best to do the same thing. Try to rally support for his cause, whereas Miro, it's like it's out of sight, out of mind. Like, you know, like nobody even thinks about him that much, and he was a freaking incredible performer, like in the past, but people aren't even excited about him anymore because he just kind of disappeared. Whereas Starks Saints always made sure that, hey, you're not going to forget about me at the end. I thought he did a great job. Up next with Ethan Page and Javon Evans. They did a big thing with Evans putting a mouthpiece in before the match, and they were like, Page broke his jaw. and they built around to a big spot where Evans stomped on his jaw too, to which Page got up and hit him with a twist of fate to win. Match was pretty good. I think Evans has a ton of potential. He's very young, but he feels like the true next generation wrestler, where he does stuff nobody else can do. I saw him in Deadlock before he came to WWE, and he was only 19. I just think he's got a great look to him, great energy, feels like a true like Generation Z wrestler, so to speak. Somebody for the young people, like the young guys, and all that. Does stuff nobody else can do. Sells pretty good. I liked a lot of his, like, something I really like about him is that he does all of this spectacular stuff, but a lot of the stuff he does also looks like it can hurt somebody, which I think a lot of guys, especially in AEW, to be honest, they can do spectacular stuff, but it's really more like a gymnastics affair. Charlotte Flair is another one. How many times have we seen her hit that moonsault to the outside or a twisting moonsault, and she barely touches somebody, and it's light as a feather? His stuff, that punch he gave, like, had a ton of hot sauce on it. It looked legit. He's a really great worker. I'm a big fan of Javon Evans. Page does nothing for me, and I thought this, like, Evans, even as a 20-year-old or 19-year-old or whatever, he got the absolute most out of an Ethan Page.
Agreed. Also going to disagree. Ethan Page, right when this match started and I saw Javon Evans put in the mouthpiece, I was like, oh shit, we're getting grudge match Ethan Page, which is the best Ethan Page. It is the Ethan Page that put Darby in handcuffs in a body bag and tossed him off the fucking ring and Evolve. I think that when Ethan Page is able to get into a grudge match scenario with a wrestler who can fucking go, especially a smaller or lighter guy who he can really throw around as well, it's like something, he hits another gear, and I just think everything he does in the match is so damn on point from a heel standpoint. Like, he sort of abandons the cartoony all ego shit, point at my mouth and smile stuff. Like, he can be a straight up mean prick in the ring. And like I said, I've always go back to him versus Darby and Evolve and that feud and how goddamn great that was. And I saw that same fire here. Like, I'd put this up with Vaquer and Henley in terms of matches that I had zero expectation for that really blew me away. Like, again, I would go, like, for both Vaquer and this, I'd go 3.5, 3 3/4.
Yeah, this was good. I would go 3 3/4 for the opener and 3.5 for this, but I would definitely recommend it. You make a good point about Page. If he could just take stuff serious, he could be an effective heel. Like, I do agree with that. I have to give him credit because that Darby work was awesome, and he was good in this match. It's kind of a sadistic type of guy, going after him, wanting to hurt people. They even said it on commentary. They were like, this version of Ethan Page wants to hurt people. And when he was the champion, he was more like the squirrely heel, and it wasn't that great. And I think he did a lot better here. But I also think Evans deserves a lot of credit for that too. And I love his prospects going forward. And they even did the thing where he was bleeding from the mouth afterwards. So they showed consequences to the mouthpiece stuff. We saw the grudge aspect in. They escalated the match well. There was good hate involved from Page. I'm with you. You're right. I have to give Page a little bit more credit. He did very good in this match as well. 7.50 from the inmates and 3.5 from the Dave Meltzer. So, again, 3.5, 3 3/4. That's where we're all at pretty much for this match. It was a good match. Very well done for both men. Afterwards, they cut to Vaquer, and she's like, my night's not done yet. I'm going to watch the main event.
That did get me excited. When they did the fake blood in Javon Evans's mouth, anytime they do a fake blood situation or something like that, my brain always goes back to the eye for an eye match when Samoa Joe's just like, it's out. The eye's out. just the commentary selling it like, oh my God, his mouth has been ripped open. And it's just like this very bright red luminescent blood. And
yeah, it sucks.
Shit's always so funny.
Yeah, it's goofy. I don't know why they do that.
It's out.
that was the worst case of the eye match.
I will always be on the side of Wei Ting in that the eye match is a legit 4-star match.
I love Wei Ting, and I don't want to criticize him, but that is crazy.
Dude, I may be speaking a little bit too much for Wei Ting here, but I'm just saying, if I remember correctly, he fucked with that match. I fuck with that match. It's just so crazy. It's out. It's out.
Yeah, I remember. I remember that happening.
Oh my god.
I remember the fake eyeball, and on ringside as well. They had that. That was an idea they had for sure. But anyway, NXT title match: Oba Femi versus Austin Theory, Grayson Waller. We talked about Femi before. He's awesome. He comes out strutting. The crowd's chanting for him, doing his whoo stuff. They show dissension right away. Theory's doing his point entrance, and then Waller interrupts it to come out. This was, I think the match was all right by the end, but I wasn't really feeling this. It was a really generic, like, oh, are they partners or are they enemies? Of course somebody's going to turn on them. And it built to Waller finally pulling, like, Theory hit the 8-time down on Femi, and then Waller yanked the ref out of the ring like he was a member of the House of Torture. And then Theory was all like, he turned at him and looked like Johnny Gargano. Like, why am I so violent? Why did you pull the referee out? And Waller's like, hey, man, I'm just trying to win the title. Like, what do you want from me? And in the end, though, that cost him. Femi destroyed everybody. Hit the big power bomb on Waller and got the win, defended the title.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. Like, the second this match began, I didn't really know much about it going in. And then when I saw the promo, I was like, okay, so this is going to be that kind of match. And then it was that kind of match. And, absolutely everything Theory and Waller did just did really nothing for me. Oba Femi looked very impressive, and pretty much my thoughts.
Who's the baby face?
Oba, right? Gotta be.
Oh yeah, he is. But I'm between Waller and Theory because the crowd chanted "Turn on Waller."
Oh, so no, I would say Theory because Waller pulled the ref out right after the 8-count down, and so I mean Waller definitely did the more heel spots against Theory. And I think that Waller, like, I don't mind Grayson Waller in ring. He does not do much for me, but he's a funny fucking guy. He's good. I think he can be utilized really well. Austin Theory, I think, is an evolved wrestler, and thank God that Shuki is there because he is ready to become champion again. Bring back Babatunde. Let's see it. I saw Babatunde versus Austin Theory live at Evolve in a fucking church in Bensonhurst in Brooklyn.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, it was also real?
Yeah, it was headlined by Walter versus JD Drake.
Those were the days of Evolve.
Yeah.
Average Austin. That's my nickname for him.
Average Austin.
Yeah, like that's what I think of him. I think, like, again, if you were scouting a wrestler, he would be 5 out of 10 in every single category to me. Like decent in ring, decent on the mic, decent look. Like, not terrible, but not like there's nothing there with him to me. And I always felt that way, even when he was with Priscilla Kelly on the Indies. I thought, like, this guy, they keep trying to make him a thing, and I don't see it out of him. When he had the shaggy hair on the Indies. Waller, I like a lot as a promo. In the ring, I think he's okay. Like, I would say a little better than, like, I think there's more to him than Theory, but he's not someone I would say is a great worker either. That, like, rolling thunder into the stunner he hit on Theory, like, that's a good move that you could hit in the right way and be explosive and all that. That rope walk into the elbow to the table was pretty good too that he hit in the match. But he's a decent wrestler. I wouldn't say great, but he's good enough. Theory, I know they really want him to be a thing, but I just I don't know. I think he's got a long way to improve. Like if you were to grade every male wrestler who appeared on the show, I think Theory might be last place. Like of everybody, like in terms of an overall prospect.
Yeah, I mean, the only person I would say is like, I'd say it's probably Trick and Theory at the bottom, yeah. And but like Trick is such a better character and has so much more aura. So
yeah. Again, if you're scouting, Trick is like a 10 on charisma and like a really good.
He's like if he just had to be a superstar and not a WWE superstar, he'd be crushing it, dude. But the WWE part, he's just got to get that together.
I would say Thorpe and Theory are comparable. Like guys who don't stand out.
I was approaching it more from like in ring, I guess, and rather than overall.
In ring, yeah. Theory's probably a little better than Trick.
And I'm totally giving Thorpe the benefit of the doubt because it's only LA Dojo shit that I'm like familiar with. I have no idea what he's done in NXT.
Yeah, he was all right. Like he was good in the dojo, but I think in NXT, and what I've seen of him, and in this match, but even stuff I've seen him a few times in NXT, and there's just not a lot there. But on the other hand, I will bring it up again. Dates Dakota Kai, so therefore he jumps ahead of Theory in my personal rankings on there. So Theory at the bottom, where he belongs. Again, I mean he's not terrible, but average Austin is what I'll always think of him until he proves me otherwise. Just like remember when Waller cut that promo on Cena when he come out? That was way better than the one Theory cut on Cena when they were fighting at WrestleMania. Although he will not get a WrestleMania in Australia, unfortunately. So throughout the night, we saw everybody in the main event like stretching backstage. They'd be like Bayley stretching. Did you see her in the Celebrity Game? To bring it back to All-Star talk.
No, so the only thing I didn't watch was Friday night. I watched Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, me too. But she didn't, as I understand it, she only took one shot in that game and missed it.
Shit, Bayley.
You really needed to do better, Bayley. One shot in your hometown. They trusted you to be the representative of WWE in the All-Star Game. But anyway, so they go on, and the lights go out. And suddenly the four guys from earlier come in, hit the ring. They beat Oma down, which I did not like. I wanted Oma to destroy these guys, 4-on-1. But they beat him down and stood there and did a little hands gesture. They were trying. So one guy's mask came off, and then another guy took his mask off and then put it back on. This group to me is giving strong Retribution vibes. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I really have no idea.
They're all rookies. They're all new. Like all of these guys are rookies.
I mean, don't a couple of them have actual wrestling? Because I was looking them up. I want to say one of them was Brogan Finley, but I could be totally wrong.
Okay.
I think I am wrong. I'm just gonna say that. But if these are like.
And Lennox has been on NXT before, but these are otherwise they're all. Even Brogan Finley is relatively new.
Yeah, but I'm like, if these are just like NIL guys, right? Like, I don't really get it. If these are like actual indie dudes who came in, they're like kind of good to go, ready on TV, and they're just gonna kind of do like a whatever style of Shield fucking thing or whatever.
Angle, yeah.
Yeah, like sure, and but it almost makes me wonder like if this sort of debut is like if this group is going to be a main force on NXT, or if they decided to debut them in a big way, and this will be more of your Evolve faction. Because
that would
I
at least
was trying to think too. I was like, who are the main heels? Like, what's your main event heel scene on NXT in the men's division? Ethan Page, Eddie Thorpe.
Yeah, he's the main. Those are the main guys getting pushed right now. And that's a pretty troubling list of heels, I would say.
I don't watch weekly, so like, are there any other main event sort of heels that you would say are like heels that could go into the main event scene?
And they just showed you right now by this show that they needed to bring in Theory and Waller to be main event heels. I know that Sean Spears is pushed a lot on the show in his group. They have there. You always have the Ridge Holland they put a lot into, and they kind of put that down. And that's about it. Yeah, like those are kind of your main event guys for the heel side. And Wesley has been pushed as well, but he's in TNA right now.
So, I mean, maybe NXT does need some sort of heel faction thing, right?
Good point.
So when is War Games is not anywhere near for NXT, right?
Yeah, that's November. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, because they attacked the tag team champions and then the NXT champions. So I imagine that they're going to be, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, so according to this, what we've seen here, this unnamed group is Dion Lennox, Cutler James, Saquon Sugars, and Osiris Griffin.
One of them is Lucky Ali from Deadlock. That's who I was thinking of. Is it Saquon?
Yeah, I think so.
See, so like there are wrestling dudes in there. So maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I just think that Saquon Sugars is Lucky Ali. So okay. Yeah, like they've got wrestler guys. It's just they're all new though. Even Lucky Ali, like he's known to Deadlock, but not to NXT fans. So
well, yeah, totally. And I guess I'm approaching it from like, thank God these guys are ready to go. Versus this is gonna be remember Parker LFG and Trench, people. The fucking mogul affiliates. Like
Parker's still in Glate, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, he's still hanging in there. Trench, I don't know where the hell he went. Trench, if you're listening, give us an update, please. But yeah, you're right. Like, you kind of sold me on this. I mean, obviously, we'll see if it's good or not, but you sold me on the idea. Much like AEW needs to work on its baby faces, NXT needs some heels. So I'm up for this. We'll see where it goes. You've kind of turned me around on it. I still kind of wished Ova had just destroyed them all, to be fair. And I wish Brogan Finley was in the group as well, now that you mentioned him. So they cut to Ava, and she's all like, they're all like, hey, like, who are these four guys? They're ruining the show. Ava's like, I'll worry about them later. Right now, I need to worry about Cincinnati. And she was like, did you know Lexis King texted me 22 times over this? And we're doing that. We're doing the live show in New York City. We have to do stuff here. Suddenly, Ariana Grace comes in and is like, hey, I've been in TNA for a while. Thanks for sending me over there. I love being in TNA, which is something very rarely said by many people. But she said, hey, there's somebody I want you to meet. And who comes in? Santino. And Santino, he's on there and he's like, hey, I remember you. You were a little kid when I last saw you. Like, we met before, And she was going on. Ava tries to like slyly say that they're like that's her dad, but then she's like, let me talk to Santino. Like, we got to work something out together. So more TNA NXT stuff. It seems like it's working good. Like their relationship. You've got Cora Jade going for the Knockouts title. Wesley's going to be on their show coming up next, and they're doing stuff with Santino in NXT. I'm up for it.
Yeah, so, it was cool to see Santino back for a moment, especially with his daughter. So I'm sure that was a nice moment for them. I am still like, I cannot believe that Ava has this role. I do not think she has gotten any better at talking, and I don't know how.
Not at all. You would think there would be something there, considering her dad, but
no.
I feel like she's kind of a lost cause at this point.
Yeah, and like, I imagine she's training in ring, but like, I just don't know what upside there is at this point. Like, I don't know. It's just such it's just such a nepo hire. Like such a nepo hire. It's just really fucking crazy to me.
Like, no joke, you, me, and most of our listeners can do this job better than her and be better at it.
It's just like every week she sounds like she's reading off cue cards like an SNL extra. And I'm just like,
she really does.
God. And like, I'm not like, I hope people improve, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just perplexed as to how she has it.
It's been a while. It's been many years. You know, wrestling's not for everybody. Look at, you know, like Eddie Guerrero's daughter when she was in NXT, like Shao. That just didn't work. And I think that's kind of where we're at with her. But as long as The Rock's around, her job is safe, pretty much. So they set up the main event, and they kind of screwed up the whole build to this, what they were going for by adding Cora. And like I said, it just felt like they wanted to have a big match for Julia, but they didn't want to beat anybody because Roxanne was going into the chamber. Bayley, they want to protect for some reason. She's also in the chamber. And so they just kept adding people until we finally got to somebody who would lose. And they tried to bring it like, okay, Julia, she represents the future of the wrestling world. Bayley is the past and Roxanne is the now. Except also Cora's here. Like, and what does she represent? Overall,
the people who get pinned.
Yeah, yes, she represents that very well. But in the end, I thought this match was good. There were some sloppy moments though here, I have to say. Like some things that I didn't think really worked, and I really blame that on the four-way nature of it. Especially Julia. I think this is not really a match up her alley with so many wrestlers around. I think that still though, once it got good, it got really good. And the finishing stretch was really good with everybody hitting their finishers and Julia running in to hit the knee strike and set up the Northern Lights bomb to win. I thought Roxanne. Oh, one thing I liked about this match is that unlike the men's title match, where they had a similar like are they friends or are they enemies type of deal, they didn't even mess around with that here. Like Cora and Roxanne went at it right away. Like Cora was like, "Screw this, I want the title. Like we might be tag team partners or whatever, but we are fighting. We're not gonna goof around with that.
Yes.
We're going for the title."
Yes. I like that too. Especially it was the match right before. They did not need to play that shit again.
Exactly. So I'm glad they avoided that trap. It would have sucked even without the last match, but it would have been brutal coming off of the exact same thing, the prior match. But when it came down to Julia and Roxanne, I thought it was really good. I think like Julia and Bayley have negative chemistry together here, and that's where a lot of the sloppiness came in, and that's very painful for me to say. I'm literally wearing a Julia shirt my family got me for Christmas right now. I'm a huge fan of hers and think she's one of the best, but in the end things went good. Overall there were some sloppy parts for everybody, especially I think Julia and Bayley did not have good chemistry, but in the end they defied the odds and they ended up pinning Roxanne before her spot in the chamber. And I actually thought Roxanne was the best player in the match, which she's come a long way because they did a tag match a few months ago with Julia and Vaquer versus Roxanne and Cora, and I thought Julia and Stephanie way outclassed them. Here I thought Roxanne was actually on Julia's level and actually was better, and I think Bayley is like there's not a lot left there. And I don't mean to be mean, but I think she's really there's just not a lot there at this point. And Cora, I don't think is a very good worker either. I do have to say, but I think for a 4-way, the positives outweighed the negatives. It's got a 4-star rating from Dave. Oh, by the way, the triple threat I think is kind of overrated. Dave gave it a 4.25 star for the triple threat, and even the inmates gave it a 7.61. To me, it's more like a 4 or a 5 to me. than a 7.61 or a 4.25 star. The four-way match has a 4-star rating and 7.86 from the inmates. I would say about a 7. 3.25, 3.5 star level. What do you think?
Yeah, I would go like 3 3/4 on this.
Okay, so you liked it.
Yeah, I liked it. Okay. I didn't like. I thought the weakest person in this match was Julia, and
I know.
It was very much like you said because of the match type. I don't think this is a match that is ever done in Stardom. At the very most you have like a triple threat or something like that. But Julia also just didn't really feel like she was in this match very often. She came in for big spots and then she would get taken out almost immediately. This match was really the Roxanne Perez show again. It felt like. And goddamn, she is so good. Like shout out Roxy, shout out New Texas Pro. Facts. And
shout out Laredo. I once fell for a girl from Laredo once, and Roxanne is representing that city so strong here.
There you go. Yeah, no, I like this. I thought it was a great end to the show. I'm happy that this main evented over the men's match. And I thought that the closing image of Julia and Stephanie Vaquer was a great statement.
Julia is another one. Like, again, if you're grading wrestlers, Julia is like a 10 on charisma. Like, the look is a 10. And the wrestling is usually fantastic. But here, I was not good. Like, I have to be honest. Again, much like I was positive on people I might not think highly of, I can't let it slide no matter how much I think of her. She was not on point tonight at the end. But it was still the right decision. Like, she was the right person to win this because she should be the face of the brand, ultimately. And the ending stretch was fantastic because she got the win. And then Stephanie's music hits. I will say this about those two, too. You can kind of tell who they see as big stars based on it. Again, I always listen to the theme music a lot. And both Stephanie and Julia's theme is very good. Like they clearly put a lot of thought and effort into that. So Stephanie's music hits. It rocks. She stomps her way out. And they kind of both hold up their titles. And they've kind of been positioned as the dream team of the company. Or of the show, at least. And then they play like Triple H always loves to do. They have the closing logo shot. The producers come up, and then wait a minute. Suddenly, Jordynne Grace's music hits. She gets a huge pop. She comes out, walks up, and they're all three facing each other. To be honest, I think I would have left it on Julia and Stephanie. I think that is a super main event caliber match, title versus title. They've been building to it the entire time they've both been here, and I think that would be a great way to end Stand and Deliver. Jordynne's great. I would have saved her until after Mania. She's another one where I think that she could have been a main roster player, to be honest, if they wanted. I don't mind her in NXT at all. I don't really mind anybody in NXT. Your thoughts on Ricky were true. I just think the unique case of it being right after he got released made it more integral for him to be in the main roster. But I like her. I mean, well, we all love Jordynne. Like, we know that she's great, and all three of these girls are great. It looks like it'll be Jordynne and Julia in the main event, and you could have Stephanie face Fallon or somebody else on the roster that they want to bring in. But really cool ending to the show with the three pairing off.
I completely forgot about Jordynne Grace. I was just like, yeah, the closing image of Julia and Stephanie was great. And then you're like, and then Jordynne Grace came out. I completely forgot. Yeah, Stand and Deliver. That's got to be the match, I imagine. I feel like you can have Jordynne lose and just bring her to the main roster.
Yeah, I think that's, to me, I would not move Julia to the main roster right now.
No.
I would have Jordynne go to your way of doing it is perfect. Like, have this be your big Stand and Deliver match. You get a single show off of that, and that's going to help draw too. Whatever they're going to do with Femi, with the title. Build a big match for Ricky. You could draw a nice show with that. And then after WrestleMania, Jordan goes to the main roster. I think your way makes perfect sense. And that'll be a hell of a match, too. Grace versus Julia.
That just feels like a Stardom red belt match, honestly. I'm hyped.
And one of the best ones if they had ever done it.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to see what Vaquera does next. Like I said, Vaquera is even better in a lot of ways. Even though, like I said, I think Julia, you cannot teach what she has, like her innate, like her it factor, as many people say. But as a worker, I think Vaquera has like not even missed a single step. Like in NXT, she's only getting better, and she's already among the best. So I'm very excited to see what she does. Femi is a great champion. He's another guy. Like all of these guys, that's one thing I like about this show. All of their champions have it factor to them. Julia, Stephanie, Fraxium, Oba. They feel like great champions. That's something I always say in Japan or America or Mexico. Well, not so much Mexico, but definitely Japan and America. If you look at the champions, if the champions are doing good, usually the company's in a good spot. And I think that for a show that works too. And I think we talked about it in AEW. All of their stuff with the Death Riders is like so bad that it's dragging down everything good on the show. With NXT, all of the champions are in good spots. So you have to praise them for that. I think the show itself was good, and I really enjoyed the first two matches a lot. And even Evans and Page in the main event, both were very good as well. I mean, this was a really good show. And I was really not that enthusiastic about it coming in. But I thought this really show over-delivered, and I thought it was a really strong performance for NXT up and down. And that's with an off night for Julia, who's usually one of their best workers. And it was still a really good show.
Yeah, but no, overall, I'm happy I watched it. Like, honestly, I had a blast because I was just pretty much texting you all day, and I was sick. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I got Vengeance Day, then I got All-Star Game, then I got Collision, and I didn't make it all the way. Like, it was just nice to have a full day of events, honestly. And this was a good way to kick it off. Like, this was probably the best NXT event I've watched in a while. Like, there was more good stuff than bad. I think, honestly, the only thing I wouldn't recommend would be the men's world title match, and that's just because of the participants and or the challengers, I should say, and then the strap match.
Yeah, the strap match was the low light. I think the triple threat had some good to it, and the fans seemed to buy into Theory turning on Waller, but I'm not there yet at all overall. But the strap match was weak to me. The triple threat was weak. Everything else was good, and I thought the first two matches were great. I would give it another 7 or 8 out of 10 rating for a show. It's got an 8.13 rating on Cage Match here, which is right around where Grand Slam Australia was too. Like, they're both rated very evenly. When I thought you could argue that they were very even shows. So yeah, good stuff there. Quickly before we wrap things up, I want to briefly touch on the releases that we have. We don't have to get super deep into everybody, but I'm just going to throw some names at you and see what you think about where can they go next. Like, what future do you see for them in this business, okay? So, pretty quick thinking here, okay?
Okay.
All right. So, WWE. The first one they let go, Duke Hudson. Chase U is just in pieces. Like, they already ended it, and now he's gone. Did you see the video he made where he interviewed himself afterwards?
Yes. I liked it.
Do you
I was
think,
impressed.
I was too. Do you think Tony will take a roll of the dice on him?
TNA.
Here's the thing. Do you think the fact that they're working together so close will make them will they be hesitant to sign any of these guys because they're working with WWE? Because there's a lot of names here. I think
there's so many dudes already in TNA, like Ali and like fucking What Fandango just went back on WWE.
Yeah,
and like that tells me they have no issues with the crossover, and like they're specific in who they choose anyway, right? So it's not like, oh, like, okay, TNA has Sami Callihan. I'm sure that they don't mind, like, they're not going to bring back Solomon Crow. Like,
no, they will not do that. I can guarantee it.
But that's to say, I feel like it doesn't really matter who TNA has. Okay. WWE will just use the people they want. But I could see that as a good creative place for him.
And it seems like he has. It seems like he has a lot of great ideas with that video that were untapped in WWE. The return of the Vink could be in between us as well here. What about the Authors of Pain? Will they have any more shows where they try to scam people this time? Like last time?
Dude, their last show, Braun Strowman versus Alistair Overeem. Imagine if that happened.
I mean, I was looking forward to that for a freak show factor, but it never happened. Like they ripped everyone off.
Yeah, I don't think they go back to wrestling.
No, they're done, and I don't think there's any reason for anyone to roll the dice on them either. Same for Paul Ellering. Like, he's done. Like, I would say maybe some kind of backstage role if somebody wants, to use his mind for stuff. Blair Davenport, B. Priestley.
Stardom.
Yeah, she basically already teased that, like, number one, like, top guy Jin is back. And they kind of seemed warm to it on Twitter. So, AEW might be a little hard for her considering how things went last time. Like you said, Stardom probably work in her home country. I like her, to be honest with you. I think they missed out on her a little bit. There was something there that wasn't fully developed. I'm not saying she's the main event. I don't like her as the top champion, but I do think that she would have been a valuable person to have on the roster that they never really did anything with.
Mm-hmm.
Cedric, that Hurt Syndicate's going to be advocating for him to come in. There is the whole big swole thing that's going to have to be talked about down with Mr. Tony Khan about if he wants to bring him in. He can always go to TNA. I think he's a really talented guy still. Like,
I think that while everyone wants him to come into AEW, I think he'd find more success in TNA doing his own thing.
That's a problem. If he comes to
he could become an X Division guy.
Yeah.
But like, sorry to interrupt, but Hurt Syndicate right now is like they're the tag champs and then MVP is their trios guy, right? So like if Cedric comes in, MVP kind of just becomes the de facto manager, and like, is Cedric just their singles guy then? And like, what does that look like?
And that's what I was going to say. Like, that's the problem with him coming into Hurt Syndicate. What he really is the fall guy. Like, whenever you need the Syndicate to lose, it's always going to be him. Because the other two are too big and important to have lose, so you need him to take the fall. And maybe he'll be happy with that. I mean, he obviously has not won a lot in his last few years in WWE. Since really the Cruiserweight run that he had, he's been pretty much a job guy. So I like him as a wrestler. I do think if that is his goal, to have success and build himself back up, then TNA would be a lot better. I could see him doing an indie run, like with your Deadlock Pro and stuff like that.
That would be cool.
Back in his home region in Carolina, so you could see that. Sonya Deville, she had this interview where she talked about how she thought she was negotiating her contract, and TKO'd things up, and they fired her. Or they didn't fire her. They just said her contract will not be renewed, even though they were negotiating a new one.
Does not wrestle anymore.
Yeah, I think she's done. I wasn't a big fan of hers, to be honest. She's okay, like in the ring. I don't think that AEW needs her, and I don't think she wants to. She's already talked about getting into acting and stuff as well. I do think the one way I think they dropped the ball with her is that, I mean, she has an amazing real life story in multiple ways. I mean, obviously being an out lesbian wrestler is something you could tell a great story about. And obviously her traumatic incident at her home that she went through, you could have done some advocacy things with that. You could have been a real inspirational story. She might not have wanted that personally, and we have to totally respect that if true, to even talk about that at all. But I think that there was a ton of heart to her and her story if they wanted to do it. They never even went those places. I thought that there was more upside to her in that way that they never really used her for. I think you could have told some great stories and very inspirational ones to help people with. Yeah, I agree with you. The Good Brothers, Anderson and Gallows, where do they go?
New Japan.
Yeah, I mean, Anderson's got like a lifetime contract practically to work there, and Gallows, unfortunately, will be there as well.
I think it would be you bring them in for the War Dogs feud against House of Torture.
I could totally see that happening, to be honest. I don't think there's much upside for them in America,
no.
even in TNA.
I don't think just to anywhere.
Even in New Japan, we don't want them there.
I don't know how these guys get paid, man. It's crazy.
It's kind of a shame because if you listen to their podcast, they're really personable, charismatic
talking
guys.
Shop. I hope they don't go to New Japan and they just do talking shop-a-mania shit.
Yeah, because they're great on that, but they're in wrestling. Every company they go in, they're not entertaining at all. Like those characters don't come through. So I just wonder why. Like, why can't they be who they are in talking shop in wrestling?
Yeah.
Elektra Lopez, that was the last cut that they made. She was an indie person in the Northeast before she came to WWE, but she didn't show a lot in WWE, to be honest. I feel like she's back to the indies. Her dad was a wrestler too, believe it or not. Oh, she feels like somebody that Ring of Honor, like Tony could roll the dice on and put her there if he sees something in her.
Okay. I'll say Ring of Honor.
Same thing with Isla Dawn, I would say. I don't think
Isla Dawn. I'm going TNA.
She feels like a really TNA person to sign. In that Rosemary universe, I think is where she's destined to be. She's not great as a wrestler. She's really over the top as a character, like, and kind of off-putting, in my opinion. But some people are into that. I'm very glad that they kept Alba Fire around. I kind of said something that they didn't let her go too. That has to feel bad though. Like you get let go, but they wanted your partner. Like that kind of sucks. But Alba Fire has a ton of potential. She's a great wrestler. Last one, Giovanni Vinci. He's the one guy I think AEW should sign. To me, I think he's a great wrestler.
Okay, am I saying where I think he's going to wind up or where I want him to wind up?
Give us both.
DDT.
Who will he feud with? The DDT.
Yuki Ueno. Imagine him.
That match would be fucking awesome.
Yeah, imagine him coming out with his smile and his like hot guy like gimmick thing. He would be so over in DDT. Just like comes out in a towel.
Yeah, that match would rule. Like, dude, that is a genius idea.
He's just, dude, to me, he's a total DDT main event style wrestler.
He is. He kind of is. Now that I think about it, I just think he's like a great DDT style main event wrestler. I think he had so much in WWE. I mean, there's a lot of rumors about why they broke up Imperium with him and Kaiser not like having a run in and not getting along for reasons. But for whatever reason, I think it was a mistake. Like, I think they really dropped the ball on him. I think that he had a lot to him when he came in. I mean, in the Cruiserweight Classic, he was great. Every time he was in, he was great, whether it was a tag team run, whether it was a singles guy, whether he was a jobber, putting other people over. He made him look good. He can bump well. He does great. He has a very creative moveset. He hits hard. Like, everything about him is like a very talented guy. I really think AEW should give him a look, like Fabian Eichner. I don't know about his promo skills though. Like that would be the thing at DDT. He could just walk out and just be himself, and that'd be it. But in AEW, he'd have to cut promos, and I don't know how good he is at that. But it can't be worse than getting beat in like 5 seconds after your debut by Apollo Crews overall. But he's like the gem of this class of people that like didn't get a fair shake. To the other ones, I don't think they had a lot of upside. Him, I do. I think that they missed the ball on. And a little bit for Blair, but we know where she's going. AEW, we talked about him already. Ricky Saints, we love him. Hopefully he does good at NXT. Black, what do you think they'll do with him? You think, because it's almost like to me, it's like almost a lock he goes to WWE.
Raw after Mania, and they should just, honestly, I would say, assuming that Cena beats Cody at Mania, right?
Right.
You have Black come out and attack Cody the night after on Raw or SmackDown, whatever the fuck show he's on.
Didn't they do that in AEW? Like, isn't that exactly how he debuted in AEW?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but like, I mean, Cody needs a heel, and like actually have Black beat him, and then go for the title and feud with Cena.
What if the Rock he's inserting himself into the title match?
Is this when we're talking about this? Okay.
And by the time everyone listens to it, he'll already have been on SmackDown. But briefly, we can talk about The Rock. What do you think about him coming back? Do you think that it will lead to anything substantial for WrestleMania, or will he just cut a promo promoting the UFL?
I'm gonna say the latter.
Okay, so you don't think he'll actually screw up the main event plans?
No, I don't, because like, what is he gonna do? Face Gunther? Or is he going to face Cody? But like, here's the thing. I don't see him. Like, I could totally see The Rock fucking over a Cody or even a Roman or a Rollins. I don't see Rock fucking over a Cena on his retirement tour.
What if he announces that he'll face Cena? They never had the third match in their trilogy. They went 1-1 at WrestleMania 28 and 29.
I will say no thank you.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Again, I just think it's very funny that he's coming back. But he was very gotten to after that Raw on Netflix, where everyone complained about him shaking Cody's hand. The very next night on NXT, he went out there and complained about it, said, shut your mouth and, stay, know your role and shut your mouth and stick on the ride The Rock's taking you on. I knew he was bothered by that. I knew he would come back. So very good. But Black, because they keep kind of teasing on Raw a new member of Judgment Day, he would be a good fit for that. If they wanted to renew it to its spooky original elements. But he's better off as a loner. I'm with you. Let him debut, lights out. He comes in, kicks somebody's head off, and off to the races. He was kind of a babyface in WWE for the most part, though. But we'll see. We'll see if he has any more Instagram posts about it when he comes in. And Miro. Do you see any hope for him going forward?
No, I heard he's a realtor now.
Congratulations, Miroslav.
Yeah.
I will always respect him because he likes the Nashville Preds hockey team. He's at their games a lot, so I do respect that. I think it's a shame if this is how it ends, because his run as the Redeemer was literally one of the best runs for the TNT title.
Yep.
Like promos and wrestling, he was great. I think he's really underrated in the ring because everyone kind of knows him for his meme stuff, like WWE with Rusev Day and the Tank and all that, and AEW with the Redeemer. But actually, he's like the only person I've seen in WWE get a good match out of Nakamura. And like pretty much since he faced Sami Zayn on that first night at NXT. Their match around Christmas, I think 2016, was like the best Nakamura ever looked in WWE, and it was because of him. And I think that he's a really talented wrestler in the ring, and I think you could do a lot of great things with him. He just constantly runs into being a cuck in how they book him in every company he goes. Why? Why do they make him do this? Nick Nemeth was bragging about that on his show the other day, talking about how they wanted to make him into a cuck. Why? Why do they do this to Rusev and Miro? Makes no sense because he's such a great talent. I don't think he'll come back, but if he does, I think there's a lot of untapped potential. But if not, best of luck as a realtor and Nashville fan of sports, Miro. So with that said, that's about everything. So hyped to be back, Nello. Really enjoyed talking about all this cool stuff with you. Hopefully all you guys out there listening really enjoyed it too. Like I said, we're on cagematch.net. We're on the YouTube. Give us comments. Let us know what you think. Be very nice that you can. And we really love that. Thank you guys so much. Nello, have anything to say to the people out there?
No, thank you so much. As always, this is a blast and a privilege to do this, so much appreciated if you take the time to listen and especially provide feedback. I'm going to start checking that out. I didn't even know that, so that was really cool to hear. And yeah, always good to talk, Dylan.
That's right. Most importantly, talking to you is the most fun part, in my opinion. In terms of what's next, we have Elimination Chamber coming up in a couple of weeks. We have AEW Revolution is the week after that. We're going to have to go through indie shows to see what we can find coming up in the next week or two until then. So we'll find something to see if there's anything that catches our eye. We'll be back sooner. But if not, we can talk about EC in a week or so. A week from tomorrow, I think.
Next weekend.
Okay, cool. Yeah, see, look at that. See, look, we got something right around the corner for everybody. And we will be back. Like I said, things are looking a lot better for me, and I think Nello too. I don't want to speak for Nello, but hopefully things are looking good and you're not in a state of misery perpetually like you were when you were sick this past weekend, which I felt very bad about. But yeah, everything you said, very cool. Hopefully you guys had fun. Let us know what you think. But most importantly, the thing you have to remember, and it's the same thing as always, that I love you. And until next time, this has been your Wrestle Update.